you know, a whole bunch of new gas cars too.
Yeah, let me just make sure YouTube's working, cause I just pressed live just to see.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
Oh, share my old Bill O'Reilly right now. Hold on. Man, I can't do it. I just can't do it.
He said that.
Who the F wrote this shit? Who wrote this shit? We'll do it live. Okay. All right. Good. Got it out of my system.
He said
Oh,
got
I
it
left
out
my
of your
hat.
system.
I left my hat. It's gonna
You
die.
left your hat.
No, it's gonna die. It's dying, but it charges relatively quick.
Yeah,
For what it is, it charges quick, but it also dies pretty quick too. I think the
nice.
graphics
So
are
it is getting your voice, which is good.
me,
Yeah.
my voice.
Let me just raise your dB a little, and
You said
then
FaceTime?
No, you're talking fine. I just lowered it because you sounded loud at first.
I am loud.
You ain't. Alrighty, we're now 2 minutes in.
Awesome.
Word.
Awesome.
Welcome everyone for the Sunday debrief. The debrief.
Yes, yes.
Oh man. Alrighty. This is gonna be interesting. Well,
Oh, it's gonna be
it's
good Sunday.
it's about to end in an hour and a half, but the WEC, the first round of the championship's taking place. Uh, what should we look out for? It's gonna be interesting because Cadillac's in the lead by 2 laps. It says right here. Does it say right here? No, doesn't say right here. So Cadillac's in the lead, followed by Porsche, followed by BMW. Last year, Porsche won, but right now they're second and fourth, and Cadillac's first and fifth, which is with the Taylor Racing Series, not even the Cadillac Wheeling Series, which is quite interesting. But this looks promising. I'm more focused. I'm always focused on more of the GTD series, like the car series, because that's what we buy today. But you know, let's put this over here.
Where have I heard GTD before? Oh, that's right, the new Mustang.
Yeah,
Oh man, a street legal race car, but
yeah, they're in
instead
this
of
one. It's right here. Christopher Mize, Frederick Versvish, and Dennis Olsen are racing for the Ford Mustang program on the GTD Pro side. And let me see if they're in the GTD because I thought I saw two of them, but I could be just blind. Yeah, just one of them. It's not two.
huh. Yeah, I don't think they want to risk losing that much money if they lose.
Well, it's
Sorry,
not the
Ford.
fact they risk losing that much money, but they built a weapon, but it's the fact that is it a feasible weapon? That's gonna be the interesting part. So,
I will say that, yeah, that is the unit of a vehicle. It is. I mean, it has all
oh, there it is, the GTD
the right
right here,
pieces.
Gradient Racing with Taddy Calderon, Harry Ticknell, sorry, Till Bettelsheimer, and Joey Hand. What an interesting flock of names.
You know what's funny? The only thing I get out of this is they should really build the Mustang GT as the GTD instead of trying to charge a premium. And
Well,
then, yeah, I mean,
they had it as such, and then they just opted to do the Mustang instead. I think it was in 2017, 18, 19, I believe. I forget.
hmm,
But
hmm,
the Lexus RC is going to be discontinued, and they're still racing their GT3 program in this.
hmm.
Ferrari obviously entered with their 296. Wow, a lot of a good amount of companies using it. Ferrari, very interesting. But yeah, I would say the
Ferrari.
heavy hitters to look for, as far as let's say the prototype class. I think it's Porsche. I do like Cadillacs. I like what they went about it, and if they win, that'd be great if they win on home soil. But Porsche will be one to look out for to get the early
Yeah.
points. BMW, I'm not really too confident in. Cadillac does have strides. Hopefully, they fixed a lot of the issues they had last year as far as reliability. Um, because they are fast. They're a fast car, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They've always seemed to be the fastest, yet they always come up short every race event that happens. The LMP2, as much as I like to pay attention to that, I don't really like unless it's someone that catches my eye, like Felipe Massa and O'Reilly, uh, Areca LMP2.
Yeah.
That would probably because I like watching him race. I really can't
Mhm.
see any other names on here. Huh? Chris Emerson, James Hill, K Mag is
Oh,
on here, which is pretty cool.
so LMP2 is really spec prototype category. So it's prototype racing on a budget. But a
Pretty
lot of you
much, I
didn't know
found one
that.
of their chassis on Facebook Marketplace for like 36 grand, like wheels and everything.
Wow. You know
I
what?
was
That would look better than a Porsche driving down the road.
true, but
I
that
said it.
thing.
I said it, Porsche fanboys. I said it. I said it.
Well,
I stand on it.
Porsche's Porsche, but no, I get you. It's wildly obnoxious to drive an LMP2, drive a car like that on street roads when it's not built for street roads.
I know. Imagine scraping everywhere, trying to take a turn.
Exactly, exactly.
You're like,
It,
this isn't a racetrack?
it'll be wild. Who else is on here that I usually follow? I
Oh,
think
wow. So in LMP2, it comes with one of four chassis manufacturers. That's also good to know, everyone.
yeah, but they're all the same. It's just at that point it's preference. They're all the
Okay.
same. Like that probably has the tightest rule set LMP2. Whereas GT, the Group 3 class, or GT3, they call it GTD, GTD Pro, and the hypercar class, or GTP, in this scenario is a little more loose as far as engines, configuration, the styling of the car, and stuff like that. Because GT3, they're just production cars, they just use it for racing, and the Le Mans prototype, or the prototype cars, let's say, is
Yeah.
it is somewhat similar structures, but you could tell they're vastly different. LMP2 is like everyone has one chassis, four different manufacturers. Everyone has a style of engine, but it's four different It's like IndyCar almost. It's like they're all the same. So another reason why I don't like IndyCar like that. That's why I don't really follow LMP2 like that. Like for example,
Yeah.
the BMW MT, the M Hybrid V8. You know, they got my boy K Mag,
Yeah.
not my boy, but K Mag right here, and then Lamborghini. For some reason, they're using Danny Kivat over here from OG was it Rebel Toro Rosso days. We got also another F1 driver, Romain Grosjean, and a couple others here that I see. So Jordan Taylor's one to look out for. He's fast. I like him in the Cadillac series. Again, Felipe Massa in the LMP2, which I'm quite surprised. Pietro Fittipaldi is another one.
Sound like some good drivers. Let's see.
Some of the drivers that aren't in F1, but I do follow. It's probably gonna be like Dennis Olsen, Antonio Garcia, and a couple others here that I'm noticing. I just quickly ran through them.
Oh, yeah.
Seth Lucas, yeah. So there's a good amount of drivers here. The more, let's say, not like famous ones, but I would say well-known ones are usually at the top of the ladder. But there's still some down in the GTD Pro series that I like. But I think what to look out for is I would say Porsche because they've been
Yes.
they've been really consistent. Last year they won it. I don't know if they're gonna win it this time around with about almost an hour to go, hour 5 minutes to go. So I don't know if they're gonna win it this time around, but if they do make strides, that'll be quite interesting. I
Yeah,
think we're gonna see a comeback from Cadillac if they fix the reliability issues, and Lamborghini will be one to look out for. But I don't
oh
know. They
man, I
just
wanted to make a comment.
he
Typical
said
Cadillac.
Cadillac reliability. Yeah, we know cars, cars, cars.
Typical.
Typical Chevy. Oh, well, they got a little better, but yeah, I get you. This dude, yeah.
I had to. I mean, it's typical what you expect out of Chevy GM products. But when they
Well,
run, yeah,
they
I can't. I'm not even consider it like a Beamer. Like when a Beamer runs, you love it. But a GM product, it runs, you're happy, but then you're like,
it's just rowdy though. That's what it. That's to me. That's what it
yeah,
is. It's just really rowdy.
exactly.
But no, this will be an interesting series. This will be very interesting.
Very.
Well, that's what I think. What the heavy hitters are. What do you think? Since you're brand spanking new to this,
I'm brand spanking new to all of this. You know what? I do want to see companies like Cadillac and Porsche go at it. I mean, from the little bit of research that I've done, a little bit of things that I've seen on them. I mean, it is cool the technology that they have in these cars. Like, you know what I mean? Like the hybrid technology in some of them,
yeah.
where it's like they're able to just transition from electric power, getting up to speed to gas, and then they just take off. I mean, most of us, if you're a normal person, you know, a normie, you know, you're not really a supercar guy. You're gonna see this technology in like a Ferrari, you know, in a production vehicle today.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, believe it or not, Toyota was one of the first to do it way back in the day. But of course, they don't use the Prius like that. You know, the Prius is supposed to be eco-friendly.
Ah,
So,
Jesus, this dude.
but I'm not, I don't want to stir the pot because you know everybody's like, "Oh, Prius," but no, a Prius. Technically, a Prius is a
Well,
race car.
everyone loves them new Priuses, man. Them new Priuses look nice. I almost confused it for a
Listen,
Lexus.
listen. I seen the new Prius and I said, "Yep, I'll drive it." I seen it driving down the road. I said, "Give me one of those, blacked out, throw some wheels on it, slam it, done,
It'll just be funny to see.
done,
Oh man.
done." I'll drive that over a Tesla any day,
Oh, all day, every day. That's just me.
any
I
day,
mean, that's just my bias, but I guess it is what it is. But
and
no,
it's
yeah,
faster, and it's faster than before now, so that's a plus.
it's faster than before, but I don't think it's faster than a Tesla.
No, not faster than Tesla, but now at least it's much better than it was a turd before. Now it's a decent turd. You know,
He
it's
said it's
good.
a decent.
It has a purpose. It's meant to be eco-friendly, but now that they can actually get up to speed in a decent amount of time, I think most of us will actually enjoy it.
Yeah, true. Fucking, we'll see. But in other racing news, besides the WEC, I would like to cover it more, but we're gonna be short on time as far as when it's going to end. So everyone's gonna have their results within the hour, hopefully.
Yep.
But big fucking MotoGP's doing rises in aerodynamics from what I saw, and the big talk of the town as far as what's been all over my feed is Lewis Hamilton's runnings in his new team of Scuderia Ferrari. But other than those, since he's been with a Mercedes powertrain his whole career, this is gonna be the first time he ain't with a Mercedes
Well,
powertrain because he was with McLaren in his early years, got a championship with them, moving on to Mercedes. So all he known is Mercedes power. So this would be an interesting twist going to the Italian roots, but nevertheless, I think it should be good. He
oh,
shows he shows really good inroads. To me, he shows like he still got it regardless of age. He's one of those that like is like the Tom Brady of the sport. Like you could tell he has one or two or three more like championships in him. Let's say if he could get it out of him,
yeah. Still has
but
that killer instinct.
of course, has a lot of reserve, along
He's a
with
good driver.
Max, along with Fernando Alonso, along with a lot of other people that have a tremendous amount of reserve as far as the endurance style of the racing, not just battling hard. Like you could tell they still want a little more. They want more. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting news to see how that goes. I like to see it. I like to see what happens. So,
yeah. Definitely want to see what happens there. They're definitely still going at it.
oh yeah. It'll be a nice rivalry if since Red Bull got third, McLaren got first, and Ferrari got second, and it literally went down to the last race on who won the constructors. The drivers was just a not like a walk in the park. It was tough that this past year, but Max was able to
Gonna be a
clinch it.
dogfight.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a lot closer. They Red Bull lost their chief technical officer, their genius in design, I would say, but it takes a team more than just one person. But that one person was very crucial. Adrian Newey,
Yeah,
he's now with Aston Martin, so we're probably gonna see a 5 or 6 way deadlock, let's say, at the top.
yeah,
Only reason being is because Cadillac's joining the mix. One of the teams is going full Audi. Aston Martin is
oh,
now getting Honda engines, which have been so reliable, which is the one you see on the screen here.
yeah. Oh,
And
that's a beautiful background.
and then
Everyone, hope you admire that background.
and then what is it? McLaren still got Mercedes. They killed it this year, which their car's been doing really good. Ferrari's now got another ace, probably a I wouldn't say a better ace driver because I think Carlos is really good, but it's just Lewis has the credentials, so it seems to be a really packed grid. And Toyota might go full swing with the Haas team because they sponsored them last year. Now they're thinking about being a full, works team, a full
Mhm.
inner works team with Haas. And who knows, they might buy out Haas and Haas will just be a branded thing with them. So it might be a really tight
That
battle
would be good.
the next 3 years. It might come down to like a 6 or 7 way deadlock. Like it might be the closest constructors title match we have seen in a long time versus like the top 3 or 4 in like the high points, like 300 or 400 range, and everyone else like below 200 or below 100 even. So we might see something along to that. So we'll see.
It's gonna be a good dogfight. It's gonna be good to watch.
Oh yeah, and it's just crazy drivers. Carlos might revamp Williams and bring them back to their former glory days of the '90s and some of the early, I would say, 2010s when they were up there around. Sometimes they were floating around second or third. So we'll see. We'll see. It'll definitely be a shakeup, and it won't be as easy as a walk away of Park that Red Bull has had it over the past. I would say, was it 2022 and 2023? It won't be as easy as
Yeah,
it was then. Granted, supposedly the car had problems, but I digress. They say what they want to say. You know, I think the car didn't really have problems. I just think, although they say the car's not built around one driver, oh nah, I have to disagree with the way Max was pulling out fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap. I'm just like I have to disagree with that. How's your number
yeah,
two person barely getting out of Q2, and then your number one person is either winning or just comes close to winning every single race? It's just that's impossible to me.
Seems to be a very big skill gap there.
It is a skill. It
A
is definitely
lot,
a skill
a
gap. Don't
lot.
get me wrong. And then that's when you look at
But
years of
they vet them.
experience.
I was gonna say, but they vetted them. They probably even
Well,
had them go through a test lab too.
Checo or Sergio Perez has had more years of experience than Max. It's just
Mm.
Max is just a raw talent. So like that's when experience goes
He's
right
just a
out the
natural.
window
He's just a
because
natural.
he's just
He
killing
just
it.
looks at it. Yeah, he just looks at it, has the instinct. He sees the road and says, "I know what to do. I
and,
know the
and
lanes. I know the lines I
that
gotta
dude
take."
just like eats, sleeps, and breathes racing. Like that dude be on the simulator 24/7. Like that's all he likes to do. Like he has his own like built PC setup and everything. Like it looks cool. Like I looked at it a couple of times. I was like, oh shit, dude's like
See
ranked
everyone.
in
Hear what he
iRacing and
said.
stuff.
Make sure you get a simulator.
He
Don't go
said
on a
make sure.
road.
He said make
Don't
sure.
go on a road experimenting with your car.
Yeah,
Get a
don't do that.
simulator.
Don't do that. Don't get. We don't want to see people pulled over, or in
Don't want
jail,
to be pulled over.
or 6 feet under.
Exactly. Or you might just break your car.
Breaking a
That's
car is
how I
one
know.
thing. You can recover from it. Yeah, actually, how you know? You can recover from a broken car, but you can't recover from adult timeout. Let's say
That's true. I'd rather break my car to go to timeout.
adult timeout. you know,
Yeah.
three
Adult
square
timeout,
meals a
you're not
day.
getting out.
Oh man,
Man, you enjoy that mush.
enjoy it. Enjoy it. Alrighty. Since
Mm,
we got
yeah.
racing out of the way as far as how that goes, since
Yeah.
we know that they're doing a lot of hybrid stuff, Instead
Hmm.
of hybrid, let's talk about the EV section of this. As far as the EPA, people who are outside America, Environmental Protection Agency, backs California's plan to go fully EV for 2035.
Yep.
Topic at hand is
So,
what we think could transpire from this decision to come into play for future EVs.
mhm.
So what do you think? Like why did the EPA suddenly decide to fully back them? California, one state, might I say.
You know, yeah, I feel that the EPA, they're slowly pushing back. It looks like right now, from what I can see, is that they were going to implement stricter emission rules for locomotives and semi trucks. Because I mean, we already know what they're doing with the normal cars today. You know, what I mean, we see Tesla and we see all the new growth of EVs that have spawned since California
Yeah.
has, spare driven. Just drove this whole EV changeover, takeover. But I believe it seems that right now that they're going to phase out and not have all the new diesel powered semi trucks and buses actually go to EV only because it seems that they still have some ways to go. It seems like, you know what I mean. It seems that like they're just not ready, in my opinion. And I know that there's probably something behind the scenes, but my personal opinion here, it's just we're not ready. I mean, think about it. We just had the California wildfires, which I think is a thing that they're not ready to address yet. But imagine if we had EV fire trucks. Like it probably would have been cool to see, electric fire truck with all the lights on it, like wee,
Oh,
going to
of
put out a
course.
fire. But then imagine it would have got near that fire, and then kaboom, you would have had electrical fire, and the water wouldn't even put it out.
No,
So
because you need a special chemical with taking out electrical burns or electrical sparks and stuff like that.
exactly. Where I do see EV power, or I mean, this might not even make sense, but maybe a locomotive train, a semi train, or like, like an Amtrak or a speed train. One of those should definitely maybe be converted to electricity. And I don't see why not. They couldn't have it regenerate the power through the tracks and the rails if they put little wheels on it the same way a car does. As it moves, it should regenerate power. I mean, it seems like a win-win in terms of a train system, but vehicles like fire trucks and government vehicles,
Hmm.
maybe a mail truck, maybe a mail truck for sure. I mean, a mail truck just spends most of its time idling, going back and forth, on and off. Makes sense. If you have a fleet, you might have to keep them in rotation. I mean, that's also the next thing. You have to worry about charging, things of that nature. But
And I think charging
yeah,
what you said there, that is my issue with EV is it's not the fact that it's just a battery. Like we get it, they're a groundbreaking technology. They've proven itself over
yeah,
the years as far as what they can do. My issue is mainly fuel source. It's like there's not a lot of the amount of EV stations per gas stations. I think is like
yeah,
one EV station to every, let's say, 100, if not more, gas stations. So
yeah,
they're not everywhere. You have to plan your trips out accordingly to do this.
yes.
And some
And
of the
unless you're ready,
and you know what's messed up?
yeah,
Let's say your route includes a hotel. Some of the hotels won't let you charge it unless you're booking a night stay. It's like, oh,
yep,
it's free for those people, but you can't do it, and that opens a whole other can of worms because it's like, then why have an
yeah,
EV station and you don't let us charge it? That's the point of it. Like, I get it. Like, does it cost money for them? If it does, then I think the government has to step in and do something about that because that's just too the way it looks for people who own EVs. That's not fair. The government should step in and do a lot of things, but in particular, if they want to push this narrative, they gotta do something
mhm,
about that.
exactly. And that's been my thing is they pushed this narrative, but they didn't push the narrative of giving us like EV stations all over. Like it'd be one thing if you're on one of those, I'm just picturing one of those cartoon roads from, the 60s, 70s, you're in the Midwest, one of those long two-lane roads going far in the desert, you see cactus. Maybe you might see a gas station every 100 miles. So just imagine if you're not seeing an EV station for another 200 miles and your EV only has a max of 200 miles. Like that would be scary. Like there's roads that if you're in an EV, you just cannot take. And now EV owners might digress and say, hey, that's not true. I've taken those roads. But guess what? You have an EV and you planned your route. If you're somebody in a gasoline powered car, 9 times out of 10, yeah, you plan your route, but you're just going to drive. You know, hey, I got to go north and I'm going to go north. And if I see a gas station, I'll see it. Or I'm going to go west, I'm going to go west. But in the EV, you're like, all right, guys, I got to go right here and stop here and get some charge. And that takes us into the time it takes to charge. It's not like a gasoline powered car where,
Exactly.
you know, in and out 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe you got a big gas tank. Glug, 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 glug.
Yeah.
Now your tank's full. But EV, nope, you might sit there, time for you to read a book. So you might as well just read a book.
Yeah, you take like
Or play a
about.
video
I've
game.
bet it when it took like about, as far as supercharger goes, it took like a good half an hour, 45 minutes. I was like, dang.
Yeah. And to some people, they may say, oh, that's not that bad. And, I will admit, when I first heard about the superchargers, I said, "Oh, that's not bad. That's pretty good. I know what I could do in that time." But in reality, if you're someone who lives in a city, like a city lifestyle, like a city dweller, and you're not somebody from a suburban area, 9 times out of 10, you're on the go. You're in a fast-paced environment and a fast-paced lifestyle, and the EV may contradict that lifestyle.
Oh,
But
for sure.
if you live in the suburbs, hey, more power to you. I mean, you have all the time in the world. You might sit down and say, "Yeah, I got a half hour to waste."
Well, it's not only that, since also with the Biden administration, he's trying
Mm,
to lay the groundwork before
yeah,
Trump tries to, what is it? How do I say, concede? I would say, or try to take it away. I forget what the fancy word is for it, but he's basically trying to like
I'm gonna
pull
use the
that
dumb
out.
word. He's gonna undo it all.
He's gonna undo it. He's gonna undo it all.
And you know what? I have no comment on it because I mean, we were making progress. I just think that they just don't need to force it upon everybody. I think we'll accept it as the American way, as we mentioned before, like the American way's V8s. You know what I mean?
No,
Around the
I don't.
world,
I don't think we'll accept it like that. I don't
yeah, I
think
don't think
so.
we'll ever accept it. Not unless they give us like some sort of hybrid that looks like a V8 that acts like that runs like a V8, maybe with batteries. I don't know, like
The
something
new
where it's like
Scat Pack.
exact. You know,
The
I don't
EV
want to talk
Scat
about
Pack.
the new. I don't want to talk about the new Charger, but I did watch a review yesterday that kind of changed my opinion a little bit on it. And I mean, it kind of spoke about a lot of things just to touch on it. You know, if you're comparing it to other EVs, it probably does suck. But if it's going to be somebody's first EV, they're probably going to love it. And if anything, it's probably going to remind them more of a traditional car if they drive it in certain modes, and they're probably going to love it just for that reason. So I think all of its flaws may actually work for the better for it. Now, the cons, it's an EV. It's not gas. It's an EV. It's not gas. Okay, I'm sorry. I can go on about that all day. It's not all. It's not rear wheel drive. It's all wheel drive. Why? But I mean, I think it has a drift mode. It might, and and that could just be a software update, so that might be great. But in all honesty, yeah, we need something that gives us more confidence. And maybe this is Dodge's way of saying, hey, we met our EV, you know, deadline. We gave you guys an EV. And I know in the past they said that the new Charger is going to be gas powered as well or combustion powered. They didn't say what motor. A lot of people are not going to like this motor because it's going to be an inline six cylinder, not a
They're
V8, not a Hemi.
bringing it back.
And we know they're bringing back the Hemi, but let's see. I mean, I know for a fact Dodge said in their production when they were making the new Chargers that the inline six had to fit where the Hemi fit. So wherever the inline six fits, the Hemi fits. So
Which
if
is
they
fine.
do give us,
Which is fine.
if they do, if they do give us a gas powered charger, which they said they will, and supposedly it's going to be on the same platform, just retooled, of course, to not take batteries and to take an engine and transmission and drive shaft and all those good bits. Then let's see, we may see some Hemi swaps going on in the future. We may see some Hellcat swaps. People with wrecked Hellcats, they might just be sitting there waiting and saying, "Hey, can't wait to get that new Charger body."
Well,
Now, will it be lighter? That's the thing I don't know because
the
I
EV no,
before
the EV won't be lighter.
I know the EV is not lighter, but will the new Charger be lighter? Because Dodge has always made heavy boats of vehicles, and the new EV Charger obviously fits in that realm. But is it the heaviest EV? I don't know. Is it one of the heavier EVs? Probably.
Well, although EVs are generally heavy, they are blistering quick. So at least you
Yeah.
got that factor for them. So here's my take on what you just said. As far as the charger, the new charger scat pack, that's not a scat pack first and foremost. But
No.
that's what
It's
they're
it's
trying to
stack pack.
sell, and I get it. And like you said,
Stack pack.
they're meeting a quota because EPA is cracking down, the government's cracking down. They want X, Y, and Z um, requirements met, and that's what they're doing. And it is what it is. Ford had to do it. Uh, Chevy Chevy did it.
Chevy's doing it.
Chevy did like two
Yeah.
models, I think, but
Yeah, they got the Blazer EV and they got the Silverado EV now, I believe.
yeah,
They got oh
Ford got the Mustang Mach E and the Lightning. So this will be Dodge's, thing.
first.
I just wish they did it. I wish they did what Ford did and just did it with like a truck. Just instead of doing like a Charger. Like I get it. Like at least Mustang, they call it a Mustang Mach E. You're calling another Charger a Scat Pack and it's fully EV. I'm like, that's kind of a slap in the face as far as the brand you built around
Yeah,
Scat Pack. Like all the funny videos on like YouTube and Instagram and all that. They're just like, oh, I want that new Scat Pack. Oh, I want that new Red
yeah,
Eye. Oh, I want a new Scat Pack wide body. Or like that. They just start talking
exactly.
ish and X Y Z. But so it'll be interesting because there was one skit where like he's like a dealer comedian, like a salesman comedian. It was like, oh, I ordered a new Scat Pack with the was it the V8, the supercharged V8. It's like, oh, we got the Scat Pack, just not the V8. And they were like, huh? And they bring him over, and it's the Charger EV. I was dying. I was like, we got the
But
Scat Pack, but not the
uh,
V8. I was like, yo, that's what it's gonna be now because
it
they're
is,
they're probably gonna implement that
it is,
now.
it's sad.
As far as your inline six debacle, to me, they should have just went twin turbo V6. I don't see why they had to build an entirely new platform. I don't see why they needed to do so. I'm not saying they haven't done it before. They've obviously done inline six. I mean, hello, the Jeep was built off inline sixes, so like it's not like they haven't done this before. I will never knock that. My problem is you killed it, which to me you should have never killed. This is what you should have brought back then. You should have brought like a twin turbo variant of the inline six and pulled it out of your butt back in 2008 when the JK came about. 2007, late 2007, early 2008. That's what they should have done back then. Not create the 3.8 and then the 3.6 Pentastar. They should have never done that. But they've shown that engine's torquey. It works, and with some right mods, it can actually pull some serious power. Pretty close power numbers to the 5.7 and the 392, which is quite interesting for I think a weaker designed engine. Me personally, they should have built that block from the ground up, fixed the lifter issue, and just twin turboed it. In my opinion, but I could see why. I could also see why they didn't do it. Although, to me, it makes more sense that they should have just rebuilt the block, fixed the head issue, and just slapped turbos on it and be like an American, like let's say GTR. It could be like the next like hot ticket as far as packaging, as far as performance. Because inline six, I get it. They gotta fit the inline six where the V8, like you said, which that makes sense if you're gonna start putting V8s back in everything. You need another substitute, another like let's say
Yeah,
friendly economic solution. Which, although the V6 did fit that category for a long time, since the inline six more longitudinal and
yeah,
it's more space skinny wise, you could kind of fit a tighter package. And I think as far as engineering goes,
yeah,
that's what they're trying to focus on is trying to fit a tighter package so that although the V6 already as tight as it is, the V6, 60-degree narrow V-bank angle, which is traditional with most of these cars today. The inline six is obviously straight, but it's a
Yeah,
little elongated. But since their V8's so massive, it kind of isn't as much. It's not much depth, but it is much depth. Let's say it's not much depth because it could fit in a lot of these cars because they're just built so big anyway. But it is deep because it is about 4 or 5 inches longer than the Hemi, even though the Hemi's severely, massive. So you're
yeah,
also playing with the aspects of that. So I like to see it. I like to see a six-cylinder variant in these Chargers and Challengers and so on and so forth. Because to me, it does make sense. They killed it for a long time back then with the 3.6 Pentastar. It's not like they haven't.
yeah.
They sold more of those than the 5.7 variants. They sold a ish ton more of those. So it does make sense. I'm not saying they shouldn't go the six-cylinder route. I just don't like the fact that they're going back to the inline six and also killing the 3.6 Pentastar. It's like you should have developed that motor first before you even decided to engineer an entirely new motor. Like that motor's
Believe it or
good.
not,
That motor's good in stock form. It just had an Achilles heel, which was the head design.
believe it or not, I want to elaborate on that. I think, believe it or not, I think they may even decide to keep the 3.6 because again, you brought up something to me that was very important a while back and how efficient that engine is. Like, most people don't care about how efficient it is. Like, normal non-engine, non-car guy, they're not going to care about the engine's efficiency. But the 3.6 is a very efficient engine in terms of how it makes power. And,
Oh yeah,
you're not really getting any power loss, combustion loss from, combusting the gas. You're actually getting most of your power from that motor. But I think just to touch on, I think you made a very solid point where Dodge should have done this back in '08, but we all know Dodge was on the verge of bankruptcy back then. So like some of the products that they brought out back then weren't really the best of quality. But if they did have the money, they probably definitely would have done something like this back in '08. Now, they should have definitely worked on the 3.6 Pentastar motor. It's a good motor. It's not bad by today's standards. I mean,
decent,
every engine, every motor has its flaws. It's decent.
decent.
Um, the Hemis did its job. I mean, the 5.7 was a staple. I mean, the 5.7's like the Chevy 5.3 or like even like the Ford 4.6. I mean, they worked. They did their job. They're workhorses. They're good to be. They should be in fleet vehicles. They do their job. They don't make the most power, but
Agreed, agreed.
it's enough. It's enough. Now the 6.4 that comes in the heavy duty trucks, that's basically an SRT engine with a truck cam and truck intake. So less peak torque, less peak horsepower, more torque down low. Works good. And we all know you have the 6.1 and 6.2 Hemis that 6.1 came out 05 to '09, and the 6.4, well, we already talked about 6.4 392s.
Yeah,
But then you have your 6.2 Hellcat motors that came out in 2015 to present. So I mean, we see Dodge has a range. I think what it is they wanted something to go against Ford's EcoBoost without copying their formula. I feel like, and I feel like it was more of a pride thing with Dodge. I feel like they were like, you know what, we could build inline six. Listen, look at BMW over there killing it. Let's build like a torquey inline six, and then let's make it so maybe we could make some power. Now, granted, we really don't know the capabilities of this engine yet. I mean, I've only seen one person swap it, and I think they swapped it into a Dodge Dakota, which it's a light vehicle, and it moved out pretty good. But I think we're gonna have to wait and see the tuning potentials of this motor to see if will it be like the new American 2J that seems like now America has recently become fascinated with, where you know Chevy's made an inline, Dodge has made an inline motor for years. The Atlas 4.2, the Vortec 4200, which gets no love. Ford didn't really make us an inline six over here in the U.S., but overseas and our Aussie boys, our Aussie fans, they got the Ford Barra, which holds its own. So I think it's kind of cool to see Dodge finally come back out with a inline six since the one that they had back then, the 4.0, was really an AMC derived design, but they kept it, and it was a stout motor. It was a workhorse. You could beat the piss out of it, and that's why Jeep guys loved it. But Dodge right now with this new inline six, we just have to wait and see. I mean, right now it only comes in the Rams and the Grand Wagoneer. So I think if it ever makes its way into the Grand Cherokee, it's a little lighter. That might be kind of cool to see. Or if it does ever make its way into the new Charger or supposedly Chrysler's new rumored vehicle, then maybe. But right now, you do have a point. They should have kept the Pentastar and turboed it. They would have had a nice motor. It would have been familiar. It would follow the rest of the engine like family. It would have just said, "Hey, all right, Dodge, we see you. You're improving your current products and you're improving your lineup, not taking away and just like they legit took the piece of paper, looked at it. Yeah, no, give us something new, and then they legit drew up the whole new plan. So hopefully it works. Right now, I mean, we might see the fall of Dodge, but
I hope not.
we
Um,
hope not. I mean, I think they're going to keep the Ram trucks and the Jeep brand alive as much as they can. I mean, I they did say the Ram is going to continue to get the V8. Being
yes,
not having a V8 and a Ram, like you said, would have killed their sales for sure. But I don't want to talk too much about Dodge because I could rant about Dodge because, as you guys can't tell, Dodge is one of my favorite companies.
it's
They
not
only
one
care
of
about
mine,
going fast.
but
See, he said it. He said it. You heard it. You heard it here, folks.
it's not one of
He
mine.
hates Dodge. Okay, it's a
I don't
Dodge
hate
fan.
them, but they're not my favorite. I have a couple of takes from what you said. Um,
All right.
the bankruptcy of the new Jeep JK and how they had to change motors. If they were really to try to save costs, like you said, wouldn't it be easier to just develop another inline six than to build an entirely new engine platform? Yes or no? As far as like, if we're talking about they're filing for they might file for bankruptcy. Money's really tight. They have no room to create something different because they're trying to meet constraints and meet targets before they drop a ish ton of money. Wouldn't you think it will be easier, cheaper, and smarter to just rebuild like an all aluminum inline six? Because BMW's been doing it. You just like Chevy did with the C8 Corvette, just copy their homework and just figure out what ticks, and then just make a different twin turbo variant, and then you would have had this history of turbo inline six because they already did naturally aspirated inline six. BMW's been doing naturally aspirated inline six. Then they
Yeah,
went
since the
V8.
'90s.
Then they went V8. Then they went turbo inline six. So it's like Jeep. The Jeep brand's been carrying an inline six since the dawn, you know,
Yeah.
the Wrangler especially, and then all you gotta do
Right.
is either create a twin turbo variant or create like a high output naturally aspirated inline six, make it all aluminum, and then create a twin turbo variant. It just to me it seems more cost effective to do that than to spend the money, spend the time, the R&D, the the development of building an entirely new engine platform for the Jeeps, the Dodge, and XYZ. So I do agree with you in a sense that they were in tough times, but to me, it seemed like they had to try to build something new to capture consumers. Which,
You're absolutely right.
it's
You're
like,
right.
but it's my thing is to capture consumers, you have to stand for what you stand. America's V8 or especially with Jeeps, if they're trying to sell Jeeps, we all know, and people, although love it and hate it to this day, the Pentastar, people will still rave about the inline six to this day. The TJ, the YJ, all the older Jeeps, even the Command Sheet, the Commander, and all the older Jeeps that had inline sixes.
It
Even
was
the older
solid.
Grand Cherokees, it's solid platform. Like people
You
loved
could
it.
hold it
They
up
could produce,
headline all day.
a lot of torque. I'm not saying the Pentastar doesn't do that, but if you were
Yeah.
really worried about that, you just rework the inline six from the design that you have. You don't try to go somewhere else. That's my issue with what you just said. Along with
I
another
wanna.
thing you just said, building the
Mhm.
American 2J. I'm sorry, you're not doing that unless you literally copy their homework. The closest thing to a modern 2J right now, in my opinion, which I've told you this before, is the S58 from the M3 M4. Everyone's gonna be like, "No, it's the B58." No, I don't care what you say. It's the S58. The S58 is the closest thing modern times as far as the 2J, as far as design. Now, if for some reason the BMW engineers want to pull something out of their hat and make an iron block version of that S58, that is a German 2J. You're not going to argue with me about it. I don't care what you say. I do not care what you say. That is a German 2J. That thing is a single turbo upgrade away, valve train, and rods and pistons away from 1500 horsepower like this all day. You are not going to argue with me about that. But they're not going to do that because that's too much weight. That's like that's null and void with what they do, you know. So, and I
I,
get it. That
I
makes sense.
I
So,
do agree with you. Nobody else is probably gonna make an iron block six
yeah.
cylinder because of weight. I mean, they might. Let's
Well,
not say they won't. They might
you also gotta
if it goes into truck.
understand the S58 already is a good platform. Like people are pushing 1500. You know, it's not like they like. I mean, granted, you're doing that with sometimes you're doing 1200 with stock rods and pistons out of a 2J, which just goes to show you the engineering from back then. You can sort of do that with the S58, but you're more likely to blow it up like in the first three passes. Sorry, than you are with the 2J. Now, as far as what you said earlier about we see BMW killing it with the turbo inline six. I bet you we could build another one. If you really want to stand out, we
Hmm.
get it. BMW builds great inline sixes, but that's not the fastest thing on the track. There's a
No.
reason why the C8 Corvette, as far as development, they literally copy and paste Ferrari 458 Italia. It was the best naturally aspirated car at that time. Then it posted the most horsepower per liter. Then and that thing was just a monster as far as racing. And they literally just
Yeah.
they just copied and paste, which I don't. I mean, I kind of don't like it, but I don't blame them. If you can't beat them, join them type ordeal. And if you're gonna do
Yeah.
that, as far as legacy goes, you want to go after the next best thing. In my opinion, the next best thing, unless you're gonna bring back the V10, which I highly doubt you're gonna bring back any type of V10. But if you're going to go six cylinder, and you already have a platform like the Pentastar, why not just copy the GTR?
See,
It's already a
I see.
3.6 liter. The first generation of it was 3.8, so the liter displacement was the same back then, and they just shortened it for the later
Ah,
models.
ah. You know what? I'm gonna stop you right there because I'm a Dodge fanboy. Unfortunately, the 3.8 liter was not really Dodge. It was really more Mitsubishi than Dodge. It
Of
was
course,
one of their shared motors that they got from Mitsubishi, and it was I think the other engine size like 3.3, and then it went 3.8, and then so they had these oddball motors. I wanted to say one thing before because you know what? I know why they made the 3.6, and I remember now. I remember when it came out, and I was like, why? Because my opinion was why they already had a 3.5 liter V6, but the 3.5 only made 250 horsepower inside of the Chargers. And I remember because when I would go to the dealerships back then, of course they would try to.
wasn't it
They thought I couldn't
3.5?
afford. Yeah, they in the first Chargers in '05, and then they made a 3.6 in
Oh,
like 2009. So it was a 3.5 high output, and they had a standard output, typical Dodge, standard output and high output. So there's nothing new for Dodge. And just like that, they had the 4.7, high output, and they had I think they even had a 4.0 high output at one point too. They just made a little bit more
because I
power.
thought it was a
Anyways,
3.7, but
yeah,
oh
no,
yeah,
you know
right.
what? They also had a 3.7. This is why they had to bring some standardization to their lineup because they had a 3.7 engine that went in the Rams that was also a derivative from the 5.9 and 5.2 Magnums.
Uh-huh.
So Dodge had so much fragmentation in their lineup. They needed one standard motor that could fit in not only the cars but the trucks and everything. And I think at the time, if I recall, Ford just came out with like their new 3.7 liter V6, not naturally aspirated, so before the EcoBoost,
Mm-hmm.
which is the basis for the EcoBoost. Then they had and Chevy came out with the 3.6 new high feature V6 they called it. And so everybody
Of
was coming
course,
out with these new
marketing
3.6 and
names.
3.5 liter V6s. So Dodge was like, we need one too. And so if you want to if I might say myself, I feel like Dodge follows the crowd. Like so, you said something that stuck out to me is that they need something that sells, and I feel like whenever Dodge has something that's not selling, instead of like you said, making something that's about the brand, like the only thing they have really for them is the Hemi, and let's be honest, the Ram, because when the Viper came out back in the '90s, it was cool, but the Ram when it came out with its different look, the second gen
Hmm.
in the '90s, it took the world by storm. Everybody's like, I want a Ram because the design, and then you got Dodge Power, which was just usually just brutal and aggressive. It's not the most sometimes, but it was just usually just more brutal and aggressive and just harsh. So, it's more like a unit that you drive versus like an actual truck. And Dodge kind of stuck with that philosophy for a while until, I hate to say it, they became bankrupt. They had to revamp their whole lineup. Like everything needed to get like redone and revamped. So the Pentastar, good motor when it came out. I think they just needed something else to give them some more, I don't know, brand recognition again. I mean, in the '70s they had the slant six or the straight six. No, Ford had the straight six. Dodge called it the slant six.
Hmm.
Ford had the straight six,
Yeah.
and they both competed back then with each other because the fuel crisis. And not saying that we're in a fuel crisis again, but history kind of repeats itself. So
Which is
right now,
annoying
all
because
brands are
it's
exactly.
annoying because the whole point of history is not to make the same mistakes twice, and I guess we're doing it 5 times over.
Exactly. Now we're like turbo four cylinders, turbo six cylinders, V8s, cross
Well,
off the list. Unless,
they're making all these cars less affordable. That's the only problem. So like,
yeah,
that and gas is like, why would I buy a V8 car?
exactly. And that's what it's really coming down to now. It's like as much as most of us would love a V8 car, it's not economical anymore to have a V8. It's like you'd almost want some sort of, if you could, if it's not a twin turbo V8 or a twin turbo six cylinder, give us a hybrid V8. And personally, I feel like that should be the way we should go. I mean, they should be giving us hybrid V8s that, do your city driving up until 50, 60 miles an hour. And hey, you need to pull, use that V8 to do what it's meant to do. Pull you from 60 to 120. I know it's not usable. Maybe keep these cars on the autobahn, but then I mean, you really just don't need it.
Yeah, right.
You don't need the
We
power.
don't have nothing like that over in America.
One day,
Nah, that's gonna
hopefully
stay. That's
one
gonna
day.
stay in Germany. That's their basis on the
Yeah.
like the BMW M5. Like that's how the M5 became like such a huge thing. It's because of the autobahn. It's an autobahn car, literally.
See, I remember back in the day, one of my first cars, one of the cars my father had, it was an Oldsmobile Aurora. And, it's like back in the day, it was NASCAR's pace car and the whole little thing. But they had an Autobahn edition. And what do you think the Autobahn edition had? Just no governor. That was it. It was, hey guys, we took the governor off this thing. Go as fast as you want. It's like, wow. So like, it's funny that that was a thing back then. But I do
Oh
wish we had the
man,
Autobahn here.
nah, that's not gonna happen. But now Dodge has an inline turbo V6, which I don't think is gonna do well. I mean, it's gonna do well as far as what it's capable of, but it's not gonna do well as far as where they're gonna put it in. At
Mm.
least they're bringing back the Hemi, but they still have the EV, which is quite interesting.
The
So,
Hemi, that oh, actually, believe it or not, the Hurricane weighs 430 pounds. I just looked it up, and the high output is for around 441 pounds. So it's about 100 pounds heavier than the Pentastar. So
you
not
know the
much more weight.
B58 weighs 309 pounds dry, right? So it's 100 pounds heavier than the BMW variant, is what you're telling me. Like what?
Um,
Like come on, come on, yo,
yes, I know,
dude,
I know.
you're copying the wrong person's
Hey,
homework, in my opinion.
let's hope, let's hope, let us hope that, and what I hope that it has more engine block material than the BMW, and hoping that we can throw more boost
Even
at it.
if it doesn't, BMW is killing the inline six game because BMW, regardless if you have more engine material than the BMW, is lighter and stronger already out the gate, out of the factory. How are you competing like that? Like you're copying the wrong person's homework if you're gonna make that inline six
But
heavy.
and we know BMW underrates their motors. So yes, we know Dodge
For
says
sure.
the high output makes 500 horsepower, 475 pound-feet of torque, right?
Yeah.
So I want to know if BMW, right? And then, let's see.
I
We
think
just need to
out.
see
I
these
think
two
out
motors
the
go
gate,
head to head.
508 horsepower. I think it said out the gate, and that was
Impressive.
in 2020.
Impressive.
That was
See,
before the hurricane talk like that. That was in 2020.
the
That
first one
came
rolled
in
off the line in
that
2021. So they came out 1 year after.
Yeah,
And
but they were built. All I'm saying is the engine came out in 2020 and they put it in
you're right.
production in 2021 because
Yeah.
of the delay of
Yeah, you're
COVID.
right.
Obviously,
Yeah.
the engine was gonna come out in 2020, and then COVID happened. Actually, I think it was gonna
You're
come
right.
out early 2020. Then COVID just smacked right dead in right there.
Smacked everything. Yeah, stopped everybody in their tracks, actually.
But like, come on now, over 500 horsepower twin turbo inline six. Like this isn't a new recipe. Like we've seen this. Like, and I told you this before with that new Hurricane motor. They have to build a new car. They have to.
All right.
They have to.
Maybe if you read this article, it's just kind of cool, a little interesting.
Send
I'll
me the
send
link
it to
on
you.
Discord.
All right. I just pasted it in our, but
Yeah, I read
it's
this.
pretty.
I read
You read.
this.
I had a
Yeah.
feeling you read this. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it has some good technology. I mean, what? It's a lightweight cast aluminum, but plasma transfer wire, arc PTWA technology to spray vaporized steel alloy onto each cylinder wall. So something we've seen previously on exotic production engines like Ford's departed Voodoo V8. So I mean, but
Or
hey,
or
but
now the
will it burn
B58 and
oil?
the S58.
Will it? Oh, that's true. I was gonna say, but will it burn oil like Ford's Voodoo V8?
Now that will be interesting. Reliability wise, that'll
Now,
be interesting.
and that's my main thing. This engine can make all the power in the world, but first and foremost, we need to see, will this thing be reliable? And unfortunately, Chrysler, Dodge, you guys do not have the best reputation for reliable vehicles. So let's see how it actually does. So before I completely back this motor, just like at first, I like the Hemi. I didn't back it because the first Hemis that I had some issues with. I should say, way back with some reason they ate bearings and had oil consumption issues, like oil pressure issues.
Hmm.
The new Hemis that I've had today, obviously, much older, so I know what to look out for. And I also had somebody go through the engine that's currently in my truck with a fine tooth comb, so I know this thing is like a Swiss sewing machine. So the thing, just purrs now.
Yeah,
Um,
welcome.
yeah, thank you. And so as we know, um, Hemis, if built right, they can be reliable, and you can get high mileage, just like your old school traditional V8s. They work and they make great power. But let's see the new Hurricane because obviously it's Chrysler, so maybe from the factory we expect to see some recalls within the first year.
Well,
Maybe
it's suspected with every production, model.
yeah. But I do want to see what its potential is. Like maybe I feel like it brings a newfound youth or like tunerism to the Rams and the Chrysler Dodge Jeep lineup. Like for years you could buy a Ford EcoBoost, downpipe, exhaust, up the boost. Now you're running 11s to 12s. And Chevy, I mean, it's a Chevy, so I mean, they've always had the LS or base or the truck V8. So I mean, parts are everywhere for them.
Yeah.
But Dodge has always had the Hemi, which you modded. You had to get like a engine swap, so you only had the 5.7, unless you did a 6.4 swap or 392 swap. I mean, or you did a Hellcat swap. So you really didn't have options. So this kind of gives us finally something in between. What I do hope to see, they should give us a 6.4 now. 5.7, axe it, did its job. Just give us the 6.4 as your new standard Hemi, your new truck engine. Doesn't even need to be the SRT variant. Just give us the heavy duty truck version, then the 450 horsepower variant that just has a truck cam and truck intake. And I honestly personally think most Ram 1500 owners would be happy.
I agree as long as they redesign that head.
They won't, but they won't. They're gonna give it to us with lift of failure. Come on,
Come on, they gotta at
you
least
know.
do that. Give the like get. Show them what reliability is.
Just give it to us
You
without
showed
MDS.
you
Give us the
you
same one as the heavy duty truck, no MDS, and
you.
I think that's all they need.
They've already showed. They've already given the customers torque. Now give them reliability, and then now you can argue. Now you can argue like Hemi being a refined V8. Just spend a little bit of R&D. Like I would say, probably 3 months. Most of these engineers need because the way America works is fast paced. So 3 months,
Yeah,
just go through the go
product.
through the head design, redo it again, come out, you know, get away with that cylinder deactivation, find a way to do like pre-ignition chamber, or find a way to make a direct ejection or something, and just make it reliable. Just make it like if you can make it reliable with 550 foot-pounds of torque at 400 at like 4,000 not even RPM, and then like around 500 horsepower, or it could be less. It could be in the 490 480 range at like barely 6,000 RPM. Let's say 58 5,700. You got yourself a nice stout Hemi, and then you can argue that that Hemi could be comparable in today's day and age to a lot of the older, more reliable V8s that didn't boast this crazy torque and horsepower curve. Because America likes to go fast. America likes to slap a ish ton of torque. But when it comes to reliability, especially when you mod and try to be reliable, bing, you're out the
Out
window
the
with
window.
that conversation.
Yeah, they're like, it don't matter, go fast, and
Yeah, go
listen,
fast and
that
go
doesn't work.
straight, and then all of a sudden you see a oil streak down the track, and it barely made 100 feet, barely 50
How
feet.
many Fords? How many Fords have we seen blown up? And
It's
I'm not
it's
knocking Fords;
Fords,
they get
Chevys, and
great power
Hemis. It's Ford,
in
Chevys, and
Hemis.
Hemis.
You
That's the only
see it
issue.
all the time. You
The
see them
only
all the time.
the only credit I give to the big three is Chevy, because they just kept reworking and reworking and reworking and reworking and reworking that engine. Like the LS7, I think was a pinnacle. They just went with a bad head company, I think, and that's why
Yes,
valves kept dropping and grenading all these LS7s in the Corvette C6Z06. But other than that flaw, it was a motor to look at. 7 liter. They didn't
man.
go V10 like Dodge did. They didn't do that like BMW did. Like they stuck with what they knew, and they just kept
Who
upping
knew?
the displacement. Ford went dual
Who
overhead
knew?
cam. They went from push rod to dual overhead cam. Like they just stuck to what they knew, and just they kept refining, refining. Now you got the LTs, the LT2s. Now you got the LT6s, and now you got the LT7, which is making 1,063 horsepower. Like they just all they did was refine, 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 refine. They're like, all right, we're gonna do flat plane now with the C8. They just went balls to the wall. They were like, F it, we got nothing to lose, and they have the perfect recipe. They
I
know
will say
you gotta understand. They
they made a
knew
piece.
they knew the Corvette was a sample, the C, the pinnacle of what Chevy was building. But
Yeah,
what is it? It was accessible to a lot of consumers. It wasn't like the Ford GT where you hadn't needed an allocation. It wasn't the Viper where you needed 170 to $180,000. No, the Chevy Corvette was ballpark 80 grand at most. After the used market 40. You get that in a sense, a C7, C6, C5 as such. I mean, the prices were lower back then, but that was during that economy. So I'm not going to talk about the oldest. I'm going to talk about the newer. So you had a car that was accessible, fun to drive, and had all the right components. It was a front engine, rear transmission, transaxle style setup. It was a great GT car, in my opinion, a really good handling car. To me, it doesn't. I wouldn't say it outhandled the Ford GT, but again, we're talking about you needed an allocation for that. You needed to prove for that you were capable of that vehicle, X, Y, Z, etc., etc. You get the gist. So now they were like, all right, we we got the staple now. Like Dodge had the Challenger because they brought it back, and then they what the hell cab out and all that stuff. But the Corvette was always the handling car, the handling, push rod American car. It was a car that had a push rod V8, was torquey, can be light if done right, and it was a way better handling car. It had all the right components. Double wishbone,
yeah.
a transaxle style transmission, torque tube. They kept the package like they try to like keep it like this, concise it. without having to
Yeah,
move all the stuff in the interior and do all this. They just stuck to what they knew. And then once they were like, all right, we've done this for so long, we've proven this works, we got to do something different. We got to do something better.
exactly.
And on top of that, Corvette is still that staple. It's still what
It's
Chevy
always gonna be
is, and it's
the
still
American
what the
staple.
consumers could still get without the allocation, without this, without the whole reworks, and without having a loyalty brand to Chevy. Without all
Exactly.
these hurdles that all the Halo cars or the Ferraris or all this stuff have, where you need to go through this whole criteria, right?
XYZ. Yeah,
So
it
now they're
just it doesn't.
and they did the best thing too, which I still will give them flack for, but I'm not mad at them because they did it smart, they marketed it smart, and they built a modern version of this car. Is they just grabbed the 458, studied it thoroughly, after they put the what is it, the LT2, the 6.2 liter direct injection
Yeah,
motor in that car, still
in the
crossplay.
back.
You still get the American version of the C8. You still get the American midship version, but now it's like, all right, now we got a flat plane version of it, and it's up one whole liter because if you
Yeah,
heard the engineers, they try to get as much liter out of it before it started introducing negative vibrational harmonics
yeah,
because flat plane cranks, that's what they normally do, but they rev super high. So
yeah.
it can still rev to 8600. It's not 9 grand, but it can still rev to 8600. Comes with all the works.
Impressive.
It comes with all the works. It's a 5.5 liter, naturally aspirated, flat plane crank, a super over squared piston the rod design, you know, direct injection, um, a tri Y equal length header setup. It has all the right recipes. Titanium connector rods, like that thing. All that does is rev. And now
You think
they
they'll pair that with the E-ray system?
no,
No,
I
it'd be
think they
nice
will.
all-wheel drive.
I think they will do a hybrid system. I don't.
Yeah, the E-ray.
No, they will do a hybrid, meaning it will just be an added power source if they wanted to. But I don't
I
think they
believe
will.
that's what the E-ray is, if I
I
recall. I think it's just the front wheels and two motors on it.
No, see, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
It will just be power assist. It will just be strictly for power. They won't add a front axle. Is what I'm saying. If anything, they will just throw the battery in the front and run the cables out back, and it will
oh,
just
you're
power
saying
that.
they'll keep it
It
just
would,
rear-wheel
yeah,
drive
rear
and
wheel drive, yeah, and have a little bit of front weight for a better, weight distribution. But I highly doubt they will ever do that because they went twin turbo now. So
I I think they might.
now that I've seen that they've gone twin turbo, they lowered the compression, reworked the piston, reworked the rod design and stuff like that, and slapped two turbos with air to water intercoolers and kept the exhaust running and the intake running as short as possible. I don't think they're ever gonna go that route, in my opinion. Only because they would have went that route. They would have went that route if they didn't do the twin turbo. But since they've done the twin turbo, I think consumers will be like, "What's the point?" Granted, the twin turbo now with the ZR1, now you need like I think with that you need an allocation now, which I get. I mean, I don't like it, but I get it because 1,063 horsepower is no joke on the back of you. Like
Yeah,
that's like you're not just gonna be like, oh, I got the money. Like, all right, you got the money, but do you know what car you're buying? Like at least they're going. To me, I think they're doing the allocation the right way because I think it's more of a safety route because they have a training program for it. They have a certain driver
hmm,
aid for it and stuff like that. So they're at least doing it the right way versus the rarity of it, so on and so forth. So I give
yeah.
them credit to that. They're using the allocation in a different way, and I like it. Although I don't like the fact that they're losing the allocation as far as his purpose, it's the right purpose. But
I think we may see an E-ray spinoff. I think they codenamed it or nicknamed it the Zora. Probably still in the testing, and of course, they're not going to release anything to the public yet. But I think, and I don't think it's going to be strictly for power, but maybe just to get you rolling. I think they may add a more powerful variant of the E-Ray's kind of front electric motor assist system, and I feel like they may add something like that just to give it. It's going to make the Corvette real rounded. You're going to have an all-wheel drive ZR1 Corvette that they'll call Zora, and now it's gonna be like the godsend. Hey, if you
I
can't
I
hook,
don't agree, unfortunately. I don't.
we only have to see. We have to see if
I
Chevy
don't.
will
I don't agree
will go.
because you should have released that before you released your ZR1. Like it could have been the build up to it because you're already in racing. You already been racing with the platform. Like before the Corvette ever received the flat plane crank V8, they were using it in the Group 3 class, the GTT class, and then everyone that heard the car, they were like, "Yo, this doesn't sound like the 6.2. What is this?" And then later on, they released that the Chevy Z06 was getting a flat plane crank 5.5 liter V8. Because they're using it in a racing program 1 to 2 years prior to the release. So now, all right, you did that. Before you did that, you did do the E-Ray. You did the Chevy. What is it? The 6.2 liter. You did an E-Ray, and then you did the Z06, and now you're doing the ZR1. It just makes no sense to go ding 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 ding, ding. It makes no sense to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
That falls off. Like you should have done it either after or before the Z06, because that could have been a nice all-wheel drive variant around. It could have been like the Huracan, let's say, or something along the lines of that. Something weird. I'm not saying it's directly like the Huracan, but an all-wheel drive. That wouldn't be half bad to see. But they would have to release it before the ZR1.
I think Corvette's mentality is, and no disrespect, we already know the Lamborghini Huracan is capable of, but I feel that they feel that their target audience, especially like what I've been seeing with people modifying the E-Ray, there's people modifying, the 6.2, now they got 600 plus horsepower, 700, and they still have the E-Ray system.
Oh, of course.
And from what people said, it, there's no tuning really required. It just works. So like,
Yeah.
they still get traction. So they're not spitting off the line. So like they're putting down some of the best times ever, and they're able to hook. So it's like if they do, I see them just working their way up. So like right now, you have the base model, you have the C8, base model, then you have the C8, Stingray, then you have the Z06, and then you got the E-Ray, which is an all-wheel drive variant, which is basically a Z06 with all-wheel drive,
Hmm.
but two electric motors in the front. Now you have the ZR1, which is like the new king. If they were to, this isn't me, this is wishful thinking. I hope that they keep the same philosophy because, again, this is America, and I do believe in capitalism. So I do believe that what they'll do is,
Do you believe it, or do you you just understand how it works?
oh, I understand how it
Oh,
works.
I'm about to say
That's
because sometimes people don't believe it. That's why I say that.
Yeah, I understand how it works. And let's just say I think that they'll make another variant because it's more money to squeeze out of a consumer. I mean, people with money are gonna say, "What? This is the next big. This is better than the other one.
Of
Why wouldn't
course,
I want that?"
of course. But like, look at that. Look at that engine, man. That's crazy. Like,
Yeah,
it wouldn't
I
make
hate it.
notes. You know what I'll say? I feel like if
Yeah,
they were ever creating another project, it'll be an all-wheel drive version of this. It'll be
yeah,
all mechanical. It'll be
yeah,
some weird way of making a transaxle either off the 8-speed Borg Warner, depending on, like, let's say they probably have to move the AC condenser and put a shaft through there or something like that. It probably might go through the block. Who knows? But if they were gonna do something along the lines of that, as far as a new project, I think they would probably make it all-wheel drive and possibly hybrid. But again, I feel like if they wanted to go balls out, balls to the wall, create something that's never done before, and call like the Zora or like call it Zeus or whatever you want to call it, it will be this motor with a hybrid battery, all-wheel drive, and it will be one of the, it will they will probably be the first production car under the $300,000 price range that can go toe to toe with the big three.
yeah. No, you're
If
right.
they wanted to go balls to the wall, that's if.
You're right. Yeah. I hope they do because I mean they've been putting all their money into the EVs as of late, and hopefully now they're like, all right, guys, production for gas cars are back. So hopefully, let's see what Chevy continues to do. I mean, they did say, hey, they're gonna keep developing the V8, and here we are. In 2025, we got a Corvette with a 5.5 flat plane V8.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what a time to be alive. I mean, that's something that
Well, they were
most of us
doing
never
that since
probably would see from
2020
Chevy.
too. They were doing that since
Yeah,
2020, so it's not like, oh, since people be like, oh, Trump's back, they're gonna bring back this. No, like they're still doing it. They're just trying to eat away at it now that what is it? Now that emissions are at play, they're just trying to eat away at what they can possibly squeeze out. So it's not like
yep.
because of presidents or like I don't understand why people tie politics to cars. Like I understand it could be an influence depending on how you look at it, but like relax, guys. This
Emissions
is
wise,
this
yeah,
is what
yeah.
car manufacturers are doing. This has nothing to do with what like they would have axed the V8 program already if that was an issue.
Unless you're talking about how they recently tried to force with all the EVs and then cause companies like, and this is more than politics. This is the whole world at play here now. I mean, not
Well, that's
only
that's still
did
that's world
Mercedes,
politics at that
Mercedes,
point.
yeah, Mercedes took away our favorite V8 from our C63, and we're not going to talk about that.
They brought it
Neither is
back.
Force no
They
more.
brought it back.
They say they will, and
They have no other
that's going to
choice.
be that's going to be a bastardization of the C63 nameplate. Why do I say that?
Oh,
Now
of
you're going
course.
to have one C63 that's worth absolutely nothing.
I agree. I mean,
Nothing.
granted, it is fast, but it doesn't. It misses its cue of having a 6.3 nameplate. I agree,
Yeah.
but
Oh, absolutely.
but this Corvette is something else, and this Corvette is something else, and the way they did it, the way they did the C8, I round of applause. I give it all to them. The engineers, they worked hard. They knew what they were doing. They knew how to build the next generation Corvette, and it's killing it. It's doing everything it's supposed to do. The only way they're gonna top the ZR1 off is if the Zora is an all-wheel drive hybrid variant with the hybrid system making another 300 horsepower. That will be
Exactly.
insane. And
Yeah.
and if they do that and still keep, let's say they do that and they keep the same target weight, I don't know, make the unibody out of carbon fiber. Just saying, if they do that, they want to go ball to the wall and call it the Zora, then it'll be a $500,000 car and it will still smack the big three. The Holy Trinity they call the new Holy Trinity. But
I think someone needs to go to the Corvette plant and talk to one of the engineers and tell them what you just said about making the carbon fiber
nah,
and
I'm not
actually
doing
having a
that.
race car.
I'm not doing that. I mean, it's not like aluminum ain't doing its job. Aluminum does a really good job, but again, if they're doing
They want to compete.
if they're
You want to
doing a
compete.
Zora package and that's their whole thing, just Hail Mary that.
Yeah.
Just go for
Do
it.
everything. Yeah.
Go for it.
Go
Home
all in. Go
hit
all in. Don't just
hit the
give us little
goal,
bits and pieces.
hit the half court three, hit just throw everything at it. Just like all wheel
Exactly.
drive, you could probably lower the displacement a little more so that you could get a little more higher revs, and then just
Yeah.
throw the whole book at it. Make it a
Throw
5
more
liter.
boost at it.
You
Yeah.
know,
Throw more boost at it.
show Ford how to build a 5 liter. Like just show them, just show them at that point. Just
Oh no! Don't piss off the Ford guys now. Oh
oh
man,
man, just show them, and then
they're gonna be the
and then
outside.
show Dodge like, yo, why are you building a Scat Pack? We're keeping our thing alive. Why aren't you keeping the Scat Pack alive? Like, just do that. Just start throwing everything at them, and then now everyone's gonna look up at Chevy like this. Oh, they're doing that. What are we doing? Like they're doing that. You know what I'm saying?
I do want to see Dodge build an all aluminum Hemi V8, and I want to see what that could do.
To be honest,
Why? You said something to me, and I'm like, damn, Dodge really doesn't have anything that's light. Nothing. They have zilch. Nada.
well, even if it's not light and they're building that inline six, they gotta build a car around it. It's just I get it. It's gonna go in these cars, and you're saying that more it can sell, and I'm not saying it can or can't. I'm just saying compared to its V8 counterparts, highly unlikely because we've seen what
You're
those
right.
numbers did. We've seen what they
You're
did.
right.
So it's like the inline six will
So
sell, but they need a new car. They need like
I
a Grand
wonder,
Touring car, like
yeah, because they brought back the Dart, and the Dart's an SUV now. I mean, the
yes,
Dart was a car. The Hornet they brought back, and now that's an SUV. The Dart they brought back, and that was a compact car. And now I'd have to go through Dodge's long list of names and see
they're
what else.
just
Like, what
they're
are they
just
gonna bring back? A
shaming
Valiant?
they're just shaming
Or
all
yeah,
these names.
yeah. I mean, even when the new Charger came out, when the Charger came out in '05, it shamed the name. Let's be real. It was supposed to be a two door. It was a four door with some, weird looking lights that it grew on me. I actually loved the first gen Charger. So. It grew on me,
I
but
don't
it's still
mind it, but I
bastardization.
do agree. I don't mind it, but I do agree. Like at first, I looked at it, I was like, "That's a
Yeah,
neat take," but at the same time, it's
yeah.
like, then I remember they released a
Mustang is two doors.
Challenger. Then I remember they
Yeah,
released a Challenger. I was like, "Oh, that's what they're trying to do." Same thing with the like,
yeah,
if you saw like the whole M3, M4 rebranding, like how
yeah.
M3, like the M3s came in either
M3's
two
four
door or
door.
four door. You're just like,
Yeah,
"All right,
yeah.
I
And
guess."
now the
Even though it
M3 is
never.
only a four door,
Yeah, which makes no
right?
sense because the M3 should be a two door and the
Two
M4 should
door,
be a
and the
four
four
door.
should be a four
But they
door.
did it back. To me, they did it backwards.
I mean, if we want to talk about branding like that, have you seen the new Audi S5 or RS5?
Yeah.
It used to be a two door, and now it's
Now they have
it's like a A7 kind of thing,
weird. Yeah.
sport coupe hatch thing, and I'm like, I thought the RS5 was two doors. Someone's like, yeah, I got an RS5. I'm like, oh wow, you got a coupe, and of course I get there, and I'm like, it's not what I was expecting.
Yeah. But that's just what it is. But as far as EVs go, that was a dumb thing Dodge did.
Oh yeah,
If
for
they were
sure,
trying to keep that brand in line, try to one up Chevy. But
exactly.
oh man, the decisions. And on top of that, as far as EVs, I just don't understand why no one's talking about. I mean, we talked about it. I don't understand why no one's talking about developing a more stable fuel, like a more stable fossil fuel, because
It,
that's our last line of the topic, and that's
all
one
we need.
that's what really gets me. It's like they're trying it. They've if you've seen um, Goodwill Raceway and over in the UK and stuff, Sebastian Vettel, for anyone who doesn't know, four-time world champion for Red Bull in 2010 to 13 before they went turbo hybrid V6. He had
Understood.
he had his Williams F1, and he was driving it on a net zero substantial fuel, and the thing ran fine. The thing ran great, and this is a Formula One engine vehicle, and the thing just blasted down the track like it was on ethanol, and it's like,
Kept going, no problem.
well, now we have proof that this works. Why aren't we using it as a more sustainable fuel in the future rather than trying to go EV or plug-in hybrid, which plug-in hybrid to me just is EV. Just has a motor to charge a battery. But like, why aren't we going these routes? Like, because
Because we
to be
reacted
honest,
instead of proacted.
oh,
That's why.
I understand that. But to wrap what I want to say up is, although there is a market for EV, what's what's powering all these factories that are building this stuff? It's not
Oh, please
electric.
don't
It's
don't
not
don't get them
electric
started.
controls the panels, but what powers these actions? It's
Don't
like
get them
diesel. It's
started.
like diesel manufacturing. It's like all these auto fuels. Like, I get it. Electrical is going through, and it's like 400 volts, like whatever, and whatever the case may be. It's a lot of voltage. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, only so much voltage can power these big compressed machines where you need something like a diesel, like something with a high combustion rate to clamp these forces down. The electric can only go so far. Then once a crash is done, at least with a diesel, it just keeps going, stop, keeps going,
Yeah,
stop. Like it just continuously
it
goes.
doesn't
So it's
care
like,
because it'll just keep going all day. It'll just
so
keep
it's
on
like
ticking.
you want to push EV, yet everything that's building all these EVs is built based on fuel, like fossil fuels, petrol or diesel, or petrol
They're
for it.
not, and EV fanatics are not ready for that discussion. They're
It's
gonna
not that
have it, but
I-
they're not
it's
ready.
it's not the fact that they're not ready. I just, to me, it makes no sense. Why push this EV route and we do not have the supply for it? We don't have the supply. We don't have the charger stations. We don't have the stability. We still have problems in manufacturing. The only one that's tackling it really well, I guess, is Tesla with Elon. But other than that, other than him and the way he's tackling it, he's still facing quality issues. So it's like we're back to square one, and we're choosing a different power source, and nothing's really changed. If anything, there's a possibility where it's actually gone worse to go EV.
Yeah,
PVTX says, I want to see a hybrid Z. I want electric motors in the front, just like you said.
yeah, I
Oh
agree.
man, Yeah, I'm
I
just noticing
agree.
the comment. Yeah, 8 minutes ago. My bad, PTVX. We are just going into we're just going into this conversation. But no, yep, you're on his boat, and I'm just in my own world, I guess. But that'll be
They
interesting.
they they need to. If they want to take the American market, like they've already given us this.
Yeah.
Why not?
But
Why not?
back to the EV route. I just don't see the issue. Like, what's the deal? It's not like it's still testing waters. Now it's proven. Like now someone went out and actually raced with it. So it's like it's not like they went out and drove it on public roads. Someone went out and raced with it on a raceway.
Yeah,
Like what are we doing? Still trying to hold the EV torch when fuels? There's better fossil fuels out there now where we could develop, we could mass produce, and keep all the gas stations. On top of that, keep them all. Like there's no point.
yeah.
I just
I
I
mean,
don't
we
know.
could we could, but I think that we just need hybrids. Like, Toyota showed us the way. Toyota showing us, hey, you can get a hybrid and get really good efficiency. And I wish more companies would follow Toyota's philosophy. Because I mean, when EVs came out, I always said, well, I thought Toyota would have no problem. It's kind of ironic that, the world kind of gave Toyota flack for not making full EVs, and Toyota said, we already have hybrids, so what's the problem? And the world was like, no, we want full EVs. And here we are now, a couple years later, and it's like Toyota's like you said, they're like, hey, we told you.
I don't
We
disagree with it. It's just I don't disagree with hybrids. And people who think I'm disagreeing with hybrids, the people I talk to, I don't disagree with them. I always thought they were going to be the more stable future other than EVs. Like EVs
Yeah,
like that came out in 2008, that early days. Although they did prove themselves over the years, even back then I still thought this is not going to be the future as much as people want to claim it to be. It's
mm,
just hybrid to me just looked way more feasible because it still has a running power source and the parts are easily replaceable. Like I remember doing hybrid cells
it's
on the
yeah,
Honda Accord. Like I was doing the Honda Accord hybrid cells, the AC compressors, even the Prius hybrid cells because there's like 32 of them, and you can replace them individually. Like you could buy them on eBay, whatever, do whatever, and just swap them out. Because I was running a tech stream at the time, they're not a hard serviceable part, but you do need a certification for it. I I at the time did not have one. I was working to get one, but there were no one around. They were trying to push these products out, push the work out for the customers because hey, where's my car? Because let's be honest, no one wants to be in a rental. As much as they don't mind it, they want their car. At the end of the day,
yep,
it was an issue because they're throwing people like me at the time that wasn't certified, or anyone to these jobs, not knowing what they're doing, not knowing they might get fried. Luckily, I was studying it, so I sort of knew what to do, like as far as safety wise, before doing it. But I can't imagine working on an EV.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, granted, it could be an easier process. I don't know. I never worked on one, but it's still an issue. And the fact that these batteries cost north of $16,000 to replace if they go bad versus an engine where I could find in a junkyard for $7,000, and
anywhere.
that's not including the labor. That's just the part. $16,000, and how much is it for labor? What, 3 grand?
Yeah,
$20,000. I might as well buy a off sale market Tesla.
yeah,
So it's
exactly.
like
At that point,
what's the point?
yeah, cost gets too high. Cost gets in the way.
Yeah, this dude was ripping it. There's a couple of videos. I'm not gonna click on them because they might overpower the sound. But he's racing with it on fossil fuel,
Yeah.
on a different fossil fuel, more stable fuel. Let me see if I can find it. German Hammond,
Sebastian
running
Vettel.
running Mansell's 1992 F1 World Championship title winning Williams FW14B on sustainable fuel. The Race Without Trace project, which is, the net zero project, which is, net zero emissions. So they found the fuel. They're still working on it, but it's not like it's not doable.
I
Like,
just want to say that's kind of cool. Right? They need that. Oh, I also want to mention Sebastian Vettel. had a special Infinity FX50 with the V8 one-off edition, and
Because
and that was only sold
Infinity
in the
was
EU.
sponsoring Red Bull at the time. That's probably why.
That's exactly why. And the 5.0 and the Infinity FX50 was their race engine at the time. It's ironic. He made one edition. It's a cool car, but I'm gonna send you the link. It's nothing special, but it's just kind of
No, it's
cool. It's
cool.
like,
It's cool
oh,
to see. It's cool to see.
it's like, hey, this guy, he also you know, had this little cool edition here. And who knew it cost so much? Yeah, I'm gonna send you the link right now in the chat. And it's ironic that a little basic FX50 like that cost so much, but it came with a special exhaust, and instead of the 390, it came with 414 horsepower,
Yeah.
which is all right for what it is.
Yeah, this was one of this release when he had his 4 year his 4 year champion run. Probably that's what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, it's a little bit older.
Yeah, but it is it's still nice to see.
2012. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what California, the EPA, what they want to do with EVs. But it makes no sense knowing that there's still fuel stations out there, and it's just as easy as probably there's probably going to be filtration because you probably have to filter all the old fuel that's been going through those lines out. But it's not like you have to replace the entirety of that. So you have to break the concrete up, do all this running the wire. Like Verizon Fios, they had to dig up all the. I remember when I was laboring and I had to keep avoiding it whenever I installed a gas line. I remember those days, but fucking, it's just crazy. Like it's if you could find a sustainable fuel like a net zero fuel, a race without trace program like what Sebastian Vettel's trying to do, to me, you could make a better killing off that than, oh, this is government funded, this is that. When it's like, I get it, but if you really want to government fund something, government fund the health insurance in the U.S. Like, god damn, like focus on making the fuel more sustainable and making our lives easier. Like, why is everything trying to be harder? I don't understand, but I'm not gonna get into that. It's just it
Oh
gets
man.
it works my gears knowing that there's a better way of doing this, and just because the government's backing a different way, and we all, to me, it's not the right way in any means
Oh,
necessary.
we're gonna save
It's a
that.
cool
We're gonna
way.
save that for other channel.
It's a cool way. Don't get me wrong. Like it's a cool thing that they're
Yep.
backing something as far as the automotive industry, but it's like, and it's for the right reasons as far as emissions. But it's like if you're really worried about emissions, create a better fuel. We already have the gas stations out there. You're gonna spend the billions, probably trillions of dollars to install a plug-in system through everything and raise the price on electric prices? Are you out of your mind? Like I get what capitalism, but god damn, at least the UK got free health insurance. Like holy,
I
like
know. And if we
yo.
want to talk about places that use EV, like Switzerland, where they have full solar panels and wind farms all over the place to make sure that they can sustain and self-sustain the EV cars.
Well, it's
But
well
you
that's
know,
different. When you build something, you could build something self-sustaining, and
we just
that
don't have an infrastructure around it. That's
yeah,
what we need. We just need the
exactly. They
infrastructure.
have a better
So
infrastructure. That's totally
they
different.
put everything in place and they said, all right, guys, we made this so yes, we can have EV government vehicles. You can have an EV. You can have an EV. We can put a charger on the street because we know we're getting natural power and
Well,
it's coming from renewable energy resources, not non-renewable. It's coming from renewable.
well,
Every day there's going to be wind or
you gotta also
or
understand
solar.
Switzerland is not like the richer of the countries out there, but they're definitely up there as far as let's say income. So they at least when they invest the right way versus what we're doing here. But I don't want to get into that. I just
Yeah,
want to end off the topic as they could build a fossil fuel, and I don't know why they don't. And they're sticking with the EVs, which makes no sense to me. It's just you're just creating a you're creating more divide with a lot of the problems we already have in America. And I don't want cars to be the issue of it, but it seems like cars are going to be another issue of what is it? Consumer divide, which is it's just going to be annoying. It's going to be sad to see, but I
exactly.
I'm not I hope this plan doesn't go through as far as EV for 2035 cuz it's just not sustainable in my opinion, because it's not just what they can do, what can travel, it's supply and it's especially when it comes to replacing these parts. How do they recycle it? Where do they go? You know, I rather I rather melt an engine than decharge a battery, let alone a hybrid system. And that's just urons,
Yeah.
electrons, just out and about floating. Oh no, it's in a secure facility. What if that security is not? What if that facility is not secure? Then just makes
Oh, you
it
means
could
like
be.
you means like a nuclear plant? Nice.
It could just, but it's like it comes down to that. But I digress. Whatever. Let's move on to our
Our
last
favorite.
topic. Our favorite. We like to rant. We love ranting, and
Yeah.
all this EV talk is just annoying. So we see F1 went F1 went turbo hybrid since 2014, and the likes of Mercedes. And Mercedes been killing it. Red Bull's come back a little bit now with the most dominant runner now. McLaren now has clinched the championship, constructors championship, but not the drivers. Unfortunately, they play second at least. Um, we see a lot of V6 turbos and V8 hybrids in the WEC championship, LMP. You know the prototype, and we see a lot of engine configurations. I would say in the Group 3 racing because there's turbo inline 6, there's the V8s, the Huracan V10s, but that's probably going to be axed out now that they're not creating the V10 anymore and so on and so forth. And while there's talking hybrids, especially with the Corvette, if there was a possible Zora, like you said, with the hybrid and put the front motors and all that stuff, especially with PVTX, what he said too. He agrees with that, obviously. So it's two against one over here. But me personally, I like an all mechanical
Just
system.
do it. Just do it.
But there's obviously talk with the Dodge inline six turbo. So since small displacement turbos are the topic of basically what has been going around, besides the EV debate, which people who think EV, oh, why don't we just go hybrid? Yeah, hybrids are now getting replaced with V6 or inline fours. So V6 has been the topic of this entire discussion. So let's just rant about let's say, our favorite six cylinders and if they're turbo or not in X, Y, and Z. So I'll let you take the lead on this one and give me your thoughts about it as far as your favorite six cylinder, whether it be turbo or non turbo.
Okay. I am a Nissan loyalist now. And so again, I also like Dodge. See, it's funny. I like the two companies that are like having trouble. They both struggle. Uh, but
The
yeah,
struggling
I
crowd is real.
it's real all right. I personally like V6 wise. If you're talking non-turbo, I'll take a VQ all day. I mean, there's something that again I know people call them a trumpet, but there's a certain smooth sound about them that I just like that just works. And but if we're talking turbo V6, I'm sorry,
No,
give me a
it could be
VR38.
V6 or turbo V6. What's your
Okay,
favorite V6?
give me a VR38. Give me that Skyline. Give me that R35 motor. I'm
Of
sorry.
course, everyone loves it.
All day, all day, all day. I used to love my 2Js. I used to love the the Buick Grand National V6. I don't think it's called the L67. I think that's what it was called in newer years. But you know, everybody knows the 3800 or the 3.8 liter. I used to love those.
Mm.
And I mean, I even loved, to be honest, you know, this is going to be a weird one for most people, but um, I actually didn't mind the GM, the new, well, that's not old, so I don't mind the
You
new
would like that
GM.
GM V6.
I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind the new ones. The new ones. They're twin turbo. You know, the new ones because the older ones, yeah, but the new ones, I know what they were capable of back then. So I'm not gonna knock GM because they made a decent twin turbo V6 that dominated. So the new ones that came out, they're overshadowed by their V8s currently, and they currently come in like the CTS. I mean not CTS, the CT4V, I believe.
Yeah.
And previously they came in like the ATS-V. It was like a 3.6 twin turbo. I mean, it's pretty interesting technology into the engine. It's just it's overshadowed by a lot more other capable platforms that can make a lot more power for cheaper money. But stock is pretty decent.
I I can't agree with what you said only because I think GM purposely did that. only reason is because, like the Ford and like the GM, like the
Yeah,
like the VR30 of Nissan, and like a couple other engines that I can't remember off the top of my head. They did this caca of a design right here. This whole integrated exhaust port to the head. Like, I'm not gonna knock it. I get it for packaging reasons. I would say, in a sense, to me it makes no sense. But as far as packaging, I guess I get it, and it controls the dissipation of heat. It controls some of the heat in the engine bay, even though I think most of the heat is in the V, regardless
yeah,
of design. That if you're turbocharging something, that is a poor way of doing it. It's a genius way if you're packaging something, but if you want to extract
yeah,
performance of it, you're always going to be limited unless you grab that head, chop it up, and make an individually ported design. And no one's going to spend the time in R&D to do that because they think
yeah,
it's a GM V6 or the Ford, it's a Ford V6. Like, come on, like, and it gets me mad because the VR38 is probably the best V6 by far. I don't care. People will say the VQs. No, I don't. I personally don't. I have to disagree with you.
yeah.
What that cylinder head? That's the design of that cylinder head. It is, as far as flow, it is unfathomable. And the fact that that thing spools a little Garrett turbos or them little IHI or whatever brand they are turbos to like 550 horsepower, like, and that thing is a turbo swap away from 1,000. Like, come on, man. You're telling me I don't
Yeah.
have to crack open the block and I throw another set of turbos and a water mess kit and I'm getting 1,000 and intercoolers and I'm getting 1,000?
Yeah, very, very capable beast of a V6. I'll say that.
And
I mean,
what sucks is every one of these V6s at Ford, GM, even Nissan, when they dumbed down to the VR30, they all went with this design. They all went with it,
yeah,
and I think they did it knowing dang well that it will beat the V8.
you said they did it on purpose. Yeah,
The,
you're right.
Because to be
You're right.
honest, the closest thing I think we got to, as far as the design, besides the open deck blockness of the VR, the closest thing we got to design of the VR38 is the Toyota 2GR. And even its exhaust ports aren't all that great, but at least they're what is it? 2GRFE. At least they're divided and they're somewhat better flowing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
No, yeah. So I wonder who will make
like
something.
like all right, it's open deck here, and I get it. In the VR30, it is open deck too, but at
Yes.
least at least I can't even find where are the pictures of this. I'm trying to find the exhaust port. Let me just put exhaust. See what? Oh, people build a sleeve for it anyway. They build a press-in sleeve for the top hat anyway, so that's pretty cool. But
Yep.
still, like the intake port. Let me see. Cylinder head
By the
exhaust.
way, if y'all don't know, it's the same engine that comes in a Lotus.
Oh, the Lotus, everything. But like, look at it. At least they're in the. Granted, they're like compact. I don't know why. So like, cylinder one and cylinder three, or cylinder four and a six, if you're looking to the right, they're angled
Yeah.
in, and then the middle one's straight, like the Subaru EJ and stuff. How they're like, I don't know
Yeah.
why. And even the S58, how the S58, the heads, the first
Equal.
three and the last three, they're angled to fit to like just push through the turbos in the S58 on the M4. So it's a neat design if you're doing stuff like that. But like, nah, they optimize the flow really like to see individually ported. At least they did something along the lines of that. But if they incorporated the technology from the 2UR as far as the valve train, how they have the fixed pivot design for the cam followers and put it in there on top of with spacing out that exhaust port more evenly, or even going a similar, let's say, rectangular route, or even an oval route like the Ferrari F1. Ferrari F40 selling. I have one in my toolbox. I don't feel like going to my toolbox to grab the head to just hold it in the camera, but
Yeah, hold it over your head.
I know, right? It'll be
It's still on
wild.
their head.
Just hold it, like, see the exhaust port right here, like that'll be wild. But let's see. Let me go down. That's the intake side. See how it's like a circle, but it's somewhat more oval. They could have
Yeah,
spaced it out and did something like that because we all
yeah,
know the VR38 is more rectangle. All the circle is way more rectangular than it is circle. So
yeah,
if they space it out like this, how everything's individually spaced like evenly,
yeah. It's
if
kind of like an oval. Yeah,
if if the 2GR had something like that with like the cam bucket design, let's say, like the 1GR has the cam on bucket design. But even if they didn't want to go with this, fine. If they went with the valve train off the 2UR, where it's a fixed roller design and it just has shims to adjust the bottom of the fixture, bro, you got yourself a GTR competitor as far as the V6 goes. It's already individually journaled V6, whereas like the VR.
hmm. So I wonder if this is why Lotus, a company like Lotus, always knew, and they just said, we're going to use this engine in our cars, and we'll let people find out as time goes on.
Let me see if I could find it. Because I actually took a. Oh, right here. Perfect. So, I don't know if. Let me go through forums real quick. If people want to see this, they can look this up. But if you look right there, and I purchased this just to see the design of it. It's not a hydraulic lasher. It's a screw-on fixed lasher. So it's like a what's it called?
All
it's
screwed on.
sort of
Okay.
it's sort of like a fixed rocker, but it's not because it has a roller. So like fixed rockers on motorcycles, they slide
Yeah.
on it and they have like a diamond like coating, and eventually
Yeah.
over time it wears off or something like that.
Wears
So
out. Yeah.
so Toyota, although this is a heavier part, is actually a neatly designed part if you look at it because they're using a roller which rotates and it will have more consistent wear and these things never blow out, especially with
Yep.
revs. And it's a fixed system, so if you want to do it right, instead of taking this whole thing apart, you just take it off the clip real quick, unscrew it, put a little shim back on, check the shim clearance, and you got yourself a fixed system. So you got that with the D4 system with the direct injection and the port fuel injected.
Hmm.
Imagine this valve train in the what is it called? And the look at that, the more evenly exhaust port, although there's a circle. So imagine that valve train in this cylinder head with this type of exhaust port and spacing. You're immediately competing with the GTR. I don't care what anyone says. And you could put that in the Supra. You could have put that in the Supra and named it the Supra instead of going the
Yeah, and have
B58 route.
a yeah, and have the Supra.
But they also wanted the inline six, so I guess I sort of get it. But still, like, come on, man, that engine has so much potential.
So, oh, that's a good one.
The
Toyota's building a
old school
V6.
TRD.
Dodge is building an inline six, and Toyota's building a V6. What have the times come
I don't know why Dodge. Again, I don't see why Dodge will be doing that, but it is what it is.
into? You know what though? At least Toyota's giving us a brand new four-cylinder turbo, and we know that whenever they make a four-cylinder turbo, that we know that they're not messing around. So
Because at least like if you put a set of turbos, they even with the angled ports, at least they flow directly well in them. But
yeah,
it's like I don't know. I'm not a. I get it for the flow of what it's supposed to do, but they could have done so much with that engine. Like I can only imagine VR38. Of course, I spelled it wrong.
it's all right. Google knows.
Look how wide that is. Oh, I can't
Yeah,
even
it's
get
a nice
into it.
oval.
It's a it's a wider oval for I think
Ooh,
than the
another
Ferrari
Ferrari.
one. And the Ferrari ones, I
Yeah,
think they flow better like this naturally aspirated. They almost make 900 horsepower like this V12 naturally aspirated. So I can only imagine if, let's say, the Ferrari had quad turbos.
yeah, yeah. I wish I had my manifolds for my
But
engine because
like,
I believe
all right,
the
so
exhaust port,
look at the
the
way
ovals.
this. No, not only ovals. Look at the little dimple. It's like they're two circles, and they're like cut into each other. So they have like a little dimple in here.
Yeah,
It's for flow characteristics, but it's what makes that exhaust spool so well. Like in this one, Ferrari, since it's more naturally aspirated, as much as they would like to go that route, they will have to push even more. So they kind of pushed it a little more closer, let's say, and they just bridged the
yeah.
gap. But they still have a tongue in the middle. I'll like to show you if this is a clear picture. I could show
Yeah,
you if I
feels
brought the
lighter,
head
but
from
yeah,
my
but
but
I know exactly what you mean. There's something inside of it that splits
they have the channeled port inside, and it's
yeah,
like
splits the airflow,
I get
directs
it.
the air.
I get why Toyota went this route, but it's like I feel like they could have done a lot more. Even if it's not
But
with the two GR,
remember,
as if with like the 3 GR or something like that. The
but
3 liter
remember,
variant or something.
it was a consumer engine, and for a consumer, and people are like, what do you mean consumer engine? For a mainstream production engine that went in most of their cars,
Yeah,
really good. It's really good for just being a regular production engine because 9 times out of 10, I mean, your production engines, you have to modify them for high power or for, certain use cases. So whenever you get an engine from a manufacturer that's built like this, that's, fairly stout from the factory, don't sleep on it.
of course.
Don't sleep on it. Do yourself a favor, everyone. Don't sleep on it. Stop trading your cars and getting new cars and saying, "Hey, I need the new latest and greatest thing." And you might realize your car already has some of the latest and greatest technology, and it might not get any better than that.
Yeah, but look at the design. They were literally a fixed follower away and a better exhaust port design away from building something incredible. And they could have used that for the new Tundra. It just
I
kept upping
know.
the power.
I want to know what happened in this motor only because of what it says. I want to know what this person did. He probably didn't do any oil changes, even
Yeah,
though it looks pretty clean though.
nah. You could. There's. I mean, it is clean, but
But
the
maybe
way that
maybe he
the
overheated it.
way the way the cams were, and you could tell some oil didn't really get to it well. Not saying it
Oh, so you
didn't,
know what? Maybe
but
he had yeah, he probably ran it low on oil, or maybe he even just didn't do oil change on time, and
or it could be
previous
it,
owner probably
it could be dirty oil and it got stuck in the hydraulic lash and it just either kept it closed or kept it open and then it just flung out on high RPM.
probably just kept
There's a
filling it
bunch
up
of
with oil.
ways this could have gone, but you get the gist.
Yeah, and believe it or not, everyone, most cars only fail from bad maintenance, improper maintenance. I mean, if you maintain your car to the T,
Oh, of course.
usually you can get high mileage at your car. Just maintenance is key, everyone.
Yeah. So your favorite six is what I'm hearing is favorite 6 cylinder all time is VR38. You're saying right?
Yes, that car has every time I try to find a another car, and we're gonna talk about the car, but motor wise, yes. But every time I try to find another car that would compete with that car, 4 doors, all-wheel drive, can mod it and just do what you want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to find a lot of contenders on that list. That's all-wheel drive. I mean, I can find plenty of rear-wheel drive cars, but all-wheel drive, no,
All right. So we
hard.
got we got yours. I think
I
mine's
want to
pretty
know what yours is.
mine's pretty set in stone, but I guess I have categories. I think just my favorite, and I think the best 6 cylinder of
Hmm.
all time is the 2J. And
Arguably the best six-cylinder, and I will never deny that because honestly, if I didn't, if the VR38 didn't exist, I would still be saying the 2J. Honestly.
which is
And
fair.
I'm only saying the VR38 because now I'm a Nissan
Nissan
fanboy.
boys,
I'm a
Nissan
Nissan boy.
boys.
And again, if y'all know me, I hated Nissan back in the day because I don't know why everybody had one. I just didn't really like it. And I did like Toyota more, but Toyota stopped. doing things like the 2J, which made him like, feared in the 90s and like everybody's like, "Oh my God, Toyota." Then they became boring. And no disrespect to Toyota, they did the right thing by making reliable cars for the people. But now we're going back into I call it the fun age of Toyota. They're gonna start spicing it back up again. So just can't wait to see what else they bring to the table. And I wish we got that V12 in the US.
Wouldn't have happened, but that's besides the point. Yeah, my favorite would be the 2J. Um, it could be a really close competitor to the RB, but I just like the 2J. And if I want it to sound like the RB, I would just ask someone who's really good with 3D modeling to help me. I mean, now I know how to design cranks and stuff, but I'll try to design like a short crank like the RB and make it sound like the RB in the 2J platform, which would be pretty cool. But no one really goes down with displacement; everyone goes up. You know,
Yeah,
best
true.
sounding V6, in my opinion, is in the Alpha 155 2.5 liter DTM race car, which is the Buso V6, which screams to 11,000. It doesn't make all the power in the world, but my God, that thing sounds so beautiful. No turbos, ITPs, fully naturally aspirated, just
Yeah,
to me,
that's probably the
it even sounds better than the Formula One turbo V6 that we got. Like granted, they're aiming for fuel efficiency, and they're the pinnacle of motorsport, which I don't agree, but I get why they will say that. I get why they will claim that the technology is ridiculously out there. But to me, best sounding V6 is the Buso V6, and I could also make an argument for the RB to be the best sounding. The 2J is my favorite V6, but I could also make an argument where the RB. So like,
I was gonna
I'm
say,
close to
yeah,
being a Nissan boy. Close,
I
close.
get what you're saying now, because I mean, I'm just seeing that V6 from, what did you say, was it Alpha or was it Ferrari?
Alpha.
Alpha. That V6 sounds glorious. I mean, I'm just looking at it on my phone right now. But in all honesty, the RB, it does have a glorious sound. I think honestly, Fast and Furious has etched that sound into a lot of our heads. Even
Oh,
though,
of
let's
course.
just say this, you know, a 2J can sound equally as good as an RB. I will say from what I've noticed, almost just as good, if not better at times. But
I'm
the
telling
RB
you, it's a
definitely has.
point four. It's a point 4 liter D-stroke away from sounding just like the RB. They both have the same bore. They just need. I mean, they're a D-stroke crank and ITBs away from sounding the exact same, in my opinion.
Yeah,
It's just
because the RB is slightly
the
higher
RB
pitched.
has a different head flow design
Yeah,
versus the
yeah,
2J. The 2J is a little more simple. RB, they kind of went overboard, so that's why I think it's the way the air goes in and out. The reason why it sounds like that, that weird cone U-shaped design, along with the
yeah.
way the exhaust runs out. Like the 2J is a little more circular, so like it does run air in well, but it's not far off in my opinion. Like,
And we know Yamaha touched the cylinder heads on the 2J, so
oh, of course.
it's gonna sound good no matter what. Because any engine Yamaha touches sounds good.
You can also, there's a company called 4N Motorsport. They build a D-stroke kit for your let's say astardized child of the N55 and the N54 that you love so much. They
Oh
built
yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
they built a D-stroke crank rod and piston kit for the N55 and S55, and that thing literally sounds like the German RB. It sounds just like the RB, just in an all German platform. It has a single turbo, everything.
I think I've heard one of those before, and I'm like, man, I have said it before, and everybody who knows me knows what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna get an old BMW, and I'm gonna treat it like an LS. I don't care if it has 200,000 miles. We will beat that car, and we will see what happens.
You will beat that car, and I'll be down south waiting for you to ship that thing down.
Like, hey, I blew something up. He's like, yeah, ship it down.
And then you could D-stroke it, make it sound like an RB. But
Exactly. Get the
so
car, blow it up, de-stroke it,
so
send it again.
um that's my favorite 6 cylinder. That's my favorite, best sounding six cylinder, the 2J, and then the Alpha Booster motor. I think the most underrated six cylinder is the it's a toss up. It's the Alpha 690T, the 90-degree V6,
Mm, okay.
and the S55, in my opinion. The only reason why I say that is because, especially for the S55, and I want to make this clear, the S55 could have done what the S58 did. It just didn't have the amount of support because of the B58 and the Supra. Now,
Yeah.
people are gonna say, "Oh, the B58's more powerful in stock form than an S55," and me personally, I have to disagree. Oh, crank pin, crank up, yep, whatever. All right, we get it. We get the crank hub thing is an issue, but that thing is a OEM gasket and ARP head studs away from 1,000 horse with nothing worked in it other than a turbo setup. With a
Yeah.
with the B58, you have to do rods, pistons. You have to do
Yeah.
a fire O-ring head gasket from like Visconti, like some aftermarket company. You have to, and I think Rob from RK, I forget the company he runs. RK Tunes, I believe, is what he does. I agree with him. He actually said this on the Street Alpha podcast, like, because I remember working on the S55 on an M3, and the thing could just pull power. It's just to me, it just never got the support it deserved. Once the B58 went in the Supra, everything was forgotten about the S55 for some odd reason, and then as the B58 and the S58 were the hot topics, and then once the S58 came around, people were like tricking with those, like, oh, you don't really need fire ring head gaskets like that because the S58 to me is a better version of the B58. Hence why I say the S58 is the modern German 2J because you don't need all that trick stuff, although you still need rods because those rods were dinky small, and yeah, it was the thing can make 1,500 horsepower now when you start throwing all this stuff at it, 3.4 liter stroker, all this stuff, and now they're cracking into the sevens like um what's his name, the tuner out of Connecticut, STI Mikey, his his was the first to go into sevens, like 798, 799, 798, and then RK Tunes did a 792, so it's like it got so much support because of the Supra. If the S55 was ever in the Supra, oh man, people will just let's develop it, like, and that's why I say it's the most underrated six cylinder, along with the Alpha 690T. And the only reason why I'm including the Alpha 690T in the conversation, let me just search it up while I'm talking about it, is that and it never got its praise for being a nice compact design because Maserati now has one, which is this one right here. The Ferrari has their Hot V. No, this ain't it. This is the V8 twin turbo version. But there's even a comparison video with the VR38, which I don't think it will ever amount to the VR38, depending on what it gets. But it's similar in design. It's just it never got the support because it never really came in anything other than a quadrifolio or something along the lines of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a good sounding engine too.
But
Angry Beast.
it's a neat design. It could be sleeved. The Maserati shares a lot of parts with the Maserati V6 shares a lot of parts with the Alpha V6 and the Ferrari V8s. They all come sleeved or something along the lines of that. You know, you see one right here that's like 12,000 RPM because people in Italy build them. Stuff like that. And it's a very capable motor. And I wish we got more of them, and I wish there was
Yeah.
more support for them. But it's a really underrated motor. And then we all know what the Ferrari's doing. They're just killing it in the group racing, Le Mans. They're just killing it with this platform, the 120-degree V-bank stitch, which I think someone should have done a long time ago. But I guess Ferrari and McLaren were the only ones that actually start utilizing it and started, whipping people's butt in endurance racing. But
You know what they should do? Stellantis. should give Chrysler, just like in the 90s, how Chrysler always had this little partnership with Maserati. They always have these random one-off models.
Mm.
They should give Chrysler, like what you said, finally a lightweight sports car with a Maserati derived V6, which obviously have its ties with Ferrari since it's their parent company. But that's wishful thinking. We know they won't do that because, they'll step on somebody else's toes. But man, they have
Yeah,
everything in there. It would all be a Stellantis product, and it could be like a premium entity for Stellantis to give Chrysler and to have something that's, competing with
yeah.
this modern age. But we know that's not going to happen.
I don't think they're ever gonna kill this. I personally want one of these motors to put. If I was to get the new Supra, I would either put this in it or like the Maserati 4.2 with the dry sump. One of those two. I would put one of those two in this, regardless if I want the 2UR. I just think for the money, for what it does, the Maserati is a lot more capable, and it already comes factory dry sump. So it's like instead of
Mm,
me spending all the
factory
money for
draws.
aftermarket,
Right.
yeah, the factory dry sump, spending all the money with the factory dry sump X, Y, Z, I could just buy a $2,000 motor versus a $7,000 motor and still have to add parts to it. It's a no brainer.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I would either do this, the 690T, because it's not it's similar design cues. I wouldn't say it's similar design, but they have all the right pieces. Everything, the exhaust ports are individually ran. They're all spaced out evenly. They have a nice high revving what is it? A lash cam design. I forget how that was. I'll probably have to search it up later. But it's 90 degrees, so lower center of gravity. Not a lot of people care about the sound of the V6, depending on who you're asking. But it still has that grunt of like a V6, which everyone loves, turbocharged. That's why I think it gets. For some reason, people make comparison videos with these two motors a lot because it's modern, more compact, lower design, small displacement, high revving, turbocharged motor. So
Yeah.
let me see if I can find anything along the lines. No, that's 2 liter Gulia. That's 2 liter. So everything here is 2 liter. That's the older design. Yeah, so nothing really here as far as. Damn, I wish I could find one, but I guess not. No, no. Yeah, so nothing here, but it is to me I'll place it above the S55 as far as an underrated motor. So I have an underrated motor, the best sounding motor, and then just to me the all-time best. I will get it no matter. I wouldn't get it no matter the money, but I've come close
Hmm.
to getting it no matter the money, type thing.
Yeah.
So, but I wouldn't, I guess, get it like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, but if I was
I
to able,
guess you know what?
what's that?
I just want to touch in. You said underrated V6.
Yeah,
I have a contender when you're done. I do
GM
have a
Ecotech.
contender. Nope. Yeah, you're not gonna. This is gonna come out of left field
So
because I
your
just remembered.
your favorite is the VR38. What's your best sounding? The RB? Which you gonna keep a Nissan for a little bit until you go the most underrated?
I do love the RB. I mean, I haven't really. I mean, to be honest with you, if it wasn't the RB, you would have heard me say the 2J. I'm just gonna be honest with you. You would have heard me say it because I grew up listening to 2J videos all day, non-stop, because I love the way they sounded.
Well,
So,
I grew up around 2J, so that's just I guess that's just my bread and butter, unfortunately.
but if you want my most underrated V6, it's gonna come out of left field because I feel like nobody's actually really built one, and I wonder what it would look like on the inside. And that's gonna be the Ford 3.0 Duratec V6. Why do I say this? Not only reason why I say this, it is one half of an Aston Martin V12. So if this engine is theoretically one half of an Aston Martin V12, what other Aston Martin bits and pieces could I potentially shove into
Wait,
this engine?
how do you have evidence of this?
So the evidence of this is back in the day, Aston Martin needed a V12, and this was I believe during the 1990s when Ford owned Aston Martin. And I'll look it up right now, but essentially what they did is Ford said, "Hey, Aston Martin, here's our V6," and they took two of those four Duratec V6s
Hmm.
and stuffed them together, and then behold, the Aston Martin V12 became alive.
You sure that's what they
So
did?
I believe so. So let's see. Yes, the Duratec has been around since the late 80s. So it replaced the old Ford pushrod Vulcan V6 and the 6.0 V12, which makes sense. It's the 6.0, and
Hmm.
two Ford Duratex with 3.0s are basically two Ford Duratec V6s coupled together. And then, of course, whatever other mods they probably had to do to
So
make
you're
it
telling
more
me
performant.
you're telling me they shared parts with each other?
They probably share some parts. I'm not sure how many parts, but I do know that,
I just want. I don't mean to cut you
let's
off. I
see.
just want to know if
So let's
because we
see.
we had this debate about the Viper V10. I just want to know if you could like swap a valve,
So
swap
let's
a
see.
rocker, swap this, swap that. You know what I'm saying? If you could easily swap it, then I can consider it,
So,
similar in
so
a
watch
sense.
this. The use of some components may have contributed to the myth, but they're quite different. They do share certain things, but let's see. The Duratec V6 is A319 cast aluminum. The V12 from Aston Martin is A365 T6 aluminum. Features a deep skirt 6-bolt main block, thin wall press-in liners, and directly mounts nearly all of its drive accessories. And it features 3 millimeter larger main bearings and a bank-to-bank offset approximately 15 millimeters less than the V6.
So
So
it's
and it
completely
has
different.
completely so it's completely reworked. But the basis of this engine is for two Duratec V6s, and then of
Okay,
course
but
there's there's
but it's
different
not the same. It's just
not
it
the same,
shares a
not
similar design.
exactly the same, exactly.
Because
Very very
we've
similar.
had the discussion before about the Viper V10. They're like, oh, they just took the Dodge V10 and made it all aluminum. It's like, well, they don't share any parts with each other, so how can you say they're the same? Although they're not. And we've had the discussion
Yeah.
before.
So yeah, it's a half cousin. So it has some common DNA and then it has some uncommon bits. So there's some parts that, from what I've seen in the past, like so in Jaguar land, it's called the AJ30,
Uh
but
huh.
it's really a Ford Duratec V6. And in Jaguar land, you'll see some people with the Jaguars. They'll take some Aston Martin bits and pieces, and of course, shoehorn them into that V6. But it requires you know, a lot of modding. So, and of course, this same V6 still went into production years later, and eventually became, I'm not going to say supercharged by Jaguar because it's technically a different engine, but Jaguar in the V8, they essentially just chopped off the cylinder. So it's not even, oh,
What's
so
that?
yeah, watch this. So
Send it to me.
Jaguar decided not to use the AJV6, right?
Uh huh.
And of course, then they made their own, which is why people don't like the new Jaguar V6 because it is essentially a V8 chopped off with two cylinders. So the older S types and the older Jaguars that came with a 3.0 non-supercharged were for Duratec V6s.
Hmm.
But of course, as time has went on, yes, it does share much of its architecture with the Ford Duratec, but of course, like you said, there's a lot of things that were changed that like we just went over.
And
Yep.
for anyone
So
that
yes, the
doesn't,
engine block, crankshaft, camshafts are entirely new. Although it's similar, the profile is similar to the Ford V6, but it's new.
yeah, it's
And then
different.
the engine was worked over by Cosworth. So after they did the little differences,
Mm-hmm.
they took it sent to the Cosworth and things like that. But the pistons, connecting rods, valves, and rocker arms are shared or similar. The architecture is similar.
Oh, look, right at the bottom, the Viper V10 was based on a '60s V8 Lightened by Lambo.
Yeah, based and like we know today, loosely based.
Yes,
So
because me and Blake had this discussion every time we talk about where engines sort of come from. It's like it's basically this, this, and this, and I'm like, I understand you could say that, but you can't share parts with it. I'm like, well, if it's based on it, yes, it can. And then me and him got in like a 30-minute like discussion slash argument where that's not how that works. And then come to find out, I'm right yet again for some odd reason. But
For once, he's
it's
right.
for once out of the out of the 400 discussions, I am 395% of the time right. But anywho,
Debatable, very debatable, everyone. But anyways, carry on.
but
Very debatable.
the only thing he's got me on is like Hemi stuff, but everything else for some reason I'm just more.
Everyone, I got him on the American cars and like the boat anchors of like car. He likes the cars, the good ones. I like the bastard cars, so it's okay.
I don't mind
I
you
like that.
liking the bad cars. I just you defend them like there's like God's given grace when it's like, bro, like I understand
They are
they were good at the time, but not good for what they're supposed to do.
they are God's given grace because in a world where everything is same, we need different. I messed up that.
Different, same, different. I know you're talking about.
Same, but different. But anyways, no, it's just he knows I'm somebody who likes to take the unloved cars and the ones that are different. Like for example, as much as I love the GTR, if everybody came out with a GTR, I'd probably go get I don't know, what's another car like a GTR? Audi R8. I'd probably get an R8. Why? And yeah, although it's gonna be missing two seats,
Mm.
I'd get the R8. Why? Different. That's just me. Or everybody does have a GTR. F it. I'd probably get a Q60
You know,
and
they
try to
they
make
say
it
the
a
R8 is
GTR.
a more comfortable Huracan, and a Huracan's like a more race focused R8. Like it's a more nice styling, more race focused, more exotic style of an R8. R8 is just like a more comfortable, more breathable, more you can actually see
Hmm.
out the rear windows type exotic, and they're both
You know what?
similar
That sounds
platforms.
similar. That sounds similar to like the Lamborghini Urus and the RSQ8. I mean, we know there's similar platforms and they
Yeah,
share stuff, but that sounds very similar to the philosophy. So yeah, Lambo's definitely honing in on that racing edge, and
of
Audi's
course.
more for the businessman who wants to be sophisticated but want to go fast.
Well, there you guys have it. You guys have our hot takes.
That's right.
Hot takes. Racing's on the way. Can't wait. Can't wait. Big driver lineup for it, especially F1, but all throughout the season. K Mag is back in the WEC. Can't wait to see that. We're switching up a lot of the drivers' lineups. California EPA's back with California for EV. Talk about that. We mostly dislike it, but it's more for how they're going about production versus what they should do if they're really serious about EPA standards and emissions. You know
Yep.
what race series to watch out for, and to wrap it all up, we talked about our favorite six cylinders, especially some of the six cylinders actually we've mentioned can be in a hybrid system. To be honest, it could be the VQs, the VRs,
Yeah.
like that, like what I say, the Alpha 690s. Like it's a small enough platform to be in a hybrid system. I like the engineering that went behind the 690, although it's a two-cylinder chopped off Ferrari F154 engine, like all the other Alphas came before it. But no, yeah, we have our hot takes as far as six cylinders goes. If y'all want to
Yes,
let us
sir.
know what topics are for. I'll probably be discussing topics later on, but there we have it. There's another Sunday in the books. We're gonna try to do a night stream on Thursday for those of you guys that work the long days. It's gonna be like an hour and a half max. Just talk about BS and cars, rant about other stuff. We're gonna try Thursdays. If not, it's gonna be Fridays. We're gonna be Thursday or Friday. We want to do Wednesday, but we feel like that's a little too close. We rather focus on more towards the end of the week so that we could just go bang bang type ordeal, and so that you guys don't have to worry about much in listening. At least we got some more viewers this
Exactly.
time around, which is greatly appreciated. It actually shows that people actually want to see and hear this stuff. So I'm glad you guys are
Exactly. And,
tuning in.
and we're giving you knowledge, free game, free car knowledge. Like these are things you're not gonna learn. Go to the dealership. They're gonna take your money. We're not trying to take your money. We're
Oh,
trying
we
to
could we
educate
could
you.
definitely have a dealership talk. That's like how they how they just do things. Is
Oh, that's gonna be a topic.
but I feel like that's more of a 2 hour thing than it is an hour and a half thing. Right now we're in almost 2.5 hours, so we actually kept it nice and concise today. You know.
Yeah, we'll make that one. We'll make that just a topic, and maybe we'll keep it to an hour if we can. But as you know, dealerships have many shady games, so
Oh,
yeah,
markup, the way they switch out, APR
hard to.
ratings,
Yeah, take your car in for service. You
financing,
know,
leasing,
service.
and cashing out, the way they switch out percentages, the way they switch out
Sell you a lower end car for the same price as a higher end car.
profit margins. Yeah, like once you go from finance, like all right, I'm just gonna buy it cash. You're like, oh, it's a different rate. They're like, no, 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 that's not how
Yeah, that's not how it
dealerships do
works.
that all the time. You know, I'm not
I can
saying
tell you all
all
that firsthand.
dealerships are like that, but if they're pinched on making money, they will do that, and
I can
it
tell you
sucks.
guys that firsthand. Went into the dealership, they told me one price, and I said, "Hey, I'll finance with you guys." Of course, they dropped it. The minute I said, "Yeah, I have my own bank check." Oh man, you should have seen their faces. They're like, "Oh, sir, we don't actually have that car anymore." Wow. So, no, that's a story for another day.
Yeah, this it's just crazy what people will do for an extra buck, let alone an extra $10,000.
Exactly.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Exactly.
Well,
Amazing.
there you guys have it. All the hot takes this Sunday. You know, let's see. Actually, before we go, let's see who won. Let's see who won. The 24 hours of
Yep.
TN.
And this is a time for me to start our new theme song. Ice baby, baby.
He said
Mm.
that.
Ice baby,
Oh,
baby.
Porsche wins 2 years in a row now. They won
Oh,
24 hours of
uh,
Daytona.
Porsche won, which means everybody's gonna be in line to get a GT3 RS because
Yo, chill. We don't
it's
got
not.
that type of money. You wild. Oh, why am I going to Wiki? This should be.
Give me one moment, everyone.
Yeah. Yep. Porsche won. Fastest driver Felipe Nasser, followed by Acura in second place and Porsche in third. Look at that, first and third podiums. That's crazy. What happened to Cadillac? Oh, they fell to fifth. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. They fell off one lap behind the leader, both BMW and Cadillac. Wow. Porsche in sixth, BMW in seventh. Wow, that's a crazy lineup. That's nice. What? Jesus Christ, man. They must have went through. I gotta watch the highlights. I watched a little bit of it, but then I fell off of it. Wow. Oh, look at that. Making inroads. Wow, the GTD Ford. Ford, Chevy, and Ford. First and third in their class. That's nice. The GT3 is actually going somewhere. The Z06, though, that's going to be a contender. The fact that they're only 2 seconds off. That's crazy. Could have came down to the later stages.
Could have.
Could have. Ford got first and third in their class, the GT3 class. Wow. Chevy was second.
Not bad.
The
Not bad,
BMW
Chevy.
BMW was fourth. AMG was fifth, and Ferrari is sixth.
Okay.
And in the
Okay.
GTD, the Chevy is first overall, followed by the Porsche 911 GT3, and then third is Aston Martin Vantage.
Aston Martin's up there.
Fourth is Mercedes. Fifth is BMW, and sixth is Aston Martin again. But as far as the top of the leaderboards, the hypercar series is Porsche with a
Of course.
1-3 podium, along with Acura being second.
Sure. Okay. Oh,
Wow, that
that merger with Nissan's gonna be good because Nissan can actually learn a thing or two from them now. Sorry, Nissan. That was a jab at you.
hey, you're not wrong.
You learn how to win. You guys make good cars, but win. Winning is winning.
I wonder if Porsche will try to take it all this year.
I
because
hope they do.
they do have the pace. They've won this now. They're 2 years in a row. They won Daytona, but who knows? Alrighty, that will be all. That'll be all. Heard us rant,
Yeah,
heard us talk ish, heard us talk about why government does what they do a tiny bit. We didn't want to go too into
exactly.
it. We didn't want to go too into it because it was more the
Oh,
EV thing, but governments be governmenting.
yeah, the government got to keep doing what they got to do. You know how the government is.
Crazy.
Government's the government.
Crazy. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank PVTX for the comments and for one upping me with siding with Blake for the electric motors in front of the ZR1. As always, we'll try to do these. Sunday will be the
You the
longer
best, PVT.
streams. Sundays will be the longer stream, and Thursdays or Fridays will be the shorter stream, depending on how we schedule this. We're gonna try to
Yep,
schedule a page where we post the schedule more often, and we're gonna start doing YouTube shorts so you guys can learn a thing or two from people of knowledge and people who have experience like
exactly.
me in a lot of these cars, and we'll try to hopefully if we start getting up there, starting including other people in the show. But for now, it's just us two, which we just love talking cars. That's all. That's all we like to do, especially with
Yep.
him having the most American knowledge and me just having knowledge about a lot of these cars and designs in general, and being a
Don't
as
worry, he has all the knowledge.
and
I just come in. I'm like,
and have
he's like, no, no, no.
and being an aspiring engineer that I am, like trying to at least. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But
Yep.
for the most part, it's just been fun, and that's what I want from this. So until then, guys, we'll catch y'all next time on the ICE podcast.
That's
Peace.
right.
Thank you very
Peace.
much.